voice, young Master Fang, perhaps it was not you but someone from your household who offended the Du family. In any case, this is merely a reminder. Leaving those words behind, Qingxiu's carriage slowly pulled away. Since the Du family had attempted to kill with a borrowed knife, then Fang Yai would do the same. His expression darkened as he glared at Wang Xiutong. You dog! Tell me, why did that bastard Du Fengjie want you to stir up trouble? Wang Xiutong sobbed, young Master Fang, I truly do not know. I was just doing as I was paid. Master Du said nothing else. Fang Yai kicked him a few more times, then stormed away from the alley in fury. At home, he reported the matter to Fang Xianling. Upon hearing it, Fang Xianling was enraged. That old dog Du Gue has gone too far. All I did was submit a report against him a few days ago, and now he lies in wait for revenge by trying to pit my son against Master Qing. His heart is vile beyond measure. Fang Yai said coldly, no wonder. So it was because father impeached him. That pompous brother of Empress Taimu, despite his lofty status, stoops to such filth. I nearly became Master Qing's enemy over this. We cannot let it go. Fang Xianling declared furiously, Yai, go seize that Wang Xiutong. I shall enter the palace immediately and bring this matter before His Majesty. With that, Fang Xianling stormed toward the palace. As for Fang Yai, he took a group of servants and guards and went after Wang Xiutong. Meanwhile, Changsun Wuji walked home smiling, holding a transcribed booklet of poems. Pingting? Where is Pingting? Changsun Pingting emerged shyly from her chamber and asked softly, Father, were you calling me? Changsun Wuji took her hand excitedly. Pingting, why did you not tell me that blind man was Master Qing? I scolded you wrongly. Had I known earlier, how could I have been angry? Changsun Pingting muttered quietly, I wanted to tell you, but you told me to be silent. Changsun Wuji laughed, Pingting, what is your relationship with Master Qing? We have only met twice. The first time was at Furong Garden. I mistook him for someone else and struck him with a whip. When I learned he was blind, I felt guilty for days. Today, I met him again and apologized in person. Master Qing is magnanimous, he did not hold it against me. Changsun Wuji's face tensed at first, then relaxed into a smile. You held the brush for him? Changsun Pingting blushed. Father, I merely held the brush. There was nothing more between us. Speak truthfully. Do not worry, I will not be angry this time. Seeing that he was sincere, she breathed a sigh of relief. Father, I truly only held the brush. Changsun Wuji looked somewhat disappointed but quickly regained his composure. He smiled and said, Pingting, the fact that he allowed you to transcribe his poem shows that you hold a place in his heart. Changsun Pingting's cheeks reddened as she hurried to explain, Father, I only admire Master Qing, I have no other thoughts. Do not misunderstand. Ha ha ha. Changsun Wuji laughed heartily. Pingting, the world is full of great scholars, but none compare to Master Qing. His brilliance at today's poetry gathering proves that he outshines 90% of the so-called literati, even I feel ashamed. And he is also Prince Wei's teacher. His Majesty himself favors Master Qing. In time, his status will rise sky high, and his future achievements will be boundless. Changsun Pingting asked, Father, why are you saying all this? I already know Master Qing is not an ordinary man. Changsun Wuji suddenly asked, do you like Master Qing? Ah? Changsun Pingting panicked, her face flushed red, and she became flustered. Changsun Wuji nodded. I see. Then know this, if you truly like him, be bold. Do not hold back. I will not stand in your way. Changsun Pingting stood stunned, murmuring, but father, he is blind. You do not mind? Changsun Wuji shook his head and smiled. What does it matter that he is blind? With such talent, his name shall be remembered through the ages. At his young age, he has already composed so many astounding works. Once they spread, the name Qingxiu shall resound throughout the Tang dynasty. Even if he is blind, what of it? If you like him and he is willing, I have no objection to welcoming him as a son-in-law of the Changsun family. Pingting, remember what I say, spend more time with Master Qing. Only then will you have a chance. I understand, father, Changsun Pingting said shyly, bowing her head, unable to conceal her joy. Li Er returned to the imperial palace, but he did not go to the Ganlu Hall to read, nor to the Taiji Hall to review memorials, nor to the Lijiang Hall to see the empress. Instead, he went to the Danyang Pavilion, a side hall where the princesses resided. After receiving the summons, Li Liju followed a eunuch out of the Danyang Pavilion. Daughter greets father emperor. Li Liju bowed respectfully, following proper etiquette. Li Er smiled and nodded, saying, Liju, today I saw you on the pleasure boat at Sujiang Pool, chatting happily with a blind man. Gu was the ancient term for a blind person with pupils, those blind without pupils were called south. Li Liju's face turned pale upon hearing this. She quickly replied, Father Emperor, did your daughter violate the rules of female propriety? She felt anxious at heart. As a princess, she was not allowed to casually interact with men. This was one of the rules written by Empress Zhongsun in her book on women's conduct. Li Er shook his head and smiled. Do not be nervous. Father is not here to punish you. I know that the blind man is Mr. Qing. He is Qingxue's teacher, and you probably already know that. Father just wants to ask a few simple questions. You may speak freely. Yes. Come, tell Father what kind of person this Mr. Qing really is. The two of them sat down in a pavilion. Li Liju spoke softly, Mr. Qing is magnanimous and easygoing. From what I observed, he appears to be someone who dislikes complex rituals and formalities, a man of open mind and free spirit. Moreover, his poetic talent is unmatched. Li Er nodded. This much Father has already seen. The poem he composed at Furong Garden was the finest in all of Chang'an. Liju, what is your relationship with Mr. Qing? Li Liju paused for a moment, thought carefully, then smiled bitterly and said, Father Emperor, I have only met Mr. Qing 3 times. The first time was at Furong Garden a month ago. The second was the day before yesterday, and today was the 3rd time. It cannot be said that I am close to him. If we meet, we may exchange a few polite words. Li Er smiled. What do you think of Mr. Qing? Li Liju asked, why does Father ask such a thing? Mr. Qing is a good man, he. Father, what do you mean? Li Liju, being extremely intelligent, had already guessed her father's intention. Li Er spoke frankly with a smile, you have reached the age for marriage. Xiao Yu has already submitted 2 memorials requesting me to marry you to his son, Xiao Rui. Would you prefer to marry Xiao Rui or Mr. Qing? Li Liju blushed, a little embarrassed. Father, Mr. Qing already has a family. Li Er frowned. He is already married? Li Liju nodded. And Mr. Qing is deeply in love with his wife. He even has a concubine. Li Er rubbed his forehead and sighed. A concubine is acceptable, but a primary wife, alas. Li Liju, with a heavy heart, said, Father, though I have only met Mr. Qing 3 times, I know well his character. He is not someone who would abandon his wife. If the emperor of the Tang dynasty were to marry off a princess, the recipient must accept her as his primary wife and could not take any concubines afterward. He could have only one wife for life. If the prospective husband already had a wife, he must divorce her before marrying a princess. Li Er murmured, so in the end, must I marry you to Xiao Rui? Li Liju's heart trembled. She knew Xiao Rui was a nobleman, the son of a prime minister, but she had never seen him. She had only heard he was rather unremarkable among the sons of the aristocracy. Would she really have to marry someone she had never met or known? Li Liju felt a pang of bitterness. Born into the imperial family, her life was not her own. Father, Li Liju said with determination and caution, might it be possible to abolish this marriage law? Li Er frowned in displeasure. Liju, this law has lasted for hundreds of years. How could it be abolished so easily? Moreover, you are a royal daughter. How could you marry someone as a concubine? You are someone who understands propriety. How can you suggest such an outrageous thing? Li Liju gently bit her lip, her expression full of sorrow. Your daughter understands her mistake. Everything is at Father's discretion. If she had to choose between Qing Xiu and Xiao Rui, she would undoubtedly choose Qing Xiu. After all, she had never even seen Xiao Rui, let alone know what kind of person he was. But she had some understanding of Qing Xiu, at the very least, she did not dislike him. Just then, a hearty laugh rang out from outside. Haha, how about Grandpa Emperor takes you out to play again tomorrow? A sweet, childish voice responded, yes. Grandma's cold noodles were so delicious, and the pine needle tea was so tasty. I really liked it. I want to go out with Grandpa Emperor again tomorrow. All right. Tomorrow, Grandpa Emperor will take you to the manor to play. Along with the voice came the sight of Li Yuan with a dainty little girl, about 4 or 5 years old, sitting on his shoulders. The girl was bold and fearless, not afraid of falling. She tightly clutched Li Yuan's hair. He was nearly being scalped, but he did not mind at all. Several guards surrounded Li Yuan, anxiously prepared to catch the child should she fall. When Li Er saw this, he immediately broke into a cold sweat. He rushed over in 3 quick steps and said nervously, Father, how could you let Lizzie sit on your shoulders? What if she falls and gets hurt? Thinking further, he added, besides, you are getting older. If something happened to you, how could I, as your son, bear it? Li Yuan set Li Lizzie down and muttered, enough. Just admit you are worried about your daughter and stop pretending to be concerned about me. Do not think I did not notice your complaints earlier. Li Er, embarrassed, replied, Father, you misunderstand. I am genuinely concerned about your health. Not wanting Li Yuan to press the issue further, Li Er quickly changed the subject. Where did father take Lizzie to play? Furong Garden. We went to listen to poetry. Haha, that Qing boy writes excellent poetry. Li Yuan first offered praise, then curled his lip and said, that old bastard Yen Silu was too much. Clearly Qing had the makings of the poetry laureate, but he was belittled to nothing just because he is blind. Li Er was surprised. Father went to Furong Garden as well? I was there too. Why did I not see you? Li Yuan explained, I took Lizzie to play outside. Later I had tea with Pei San somewhere else and never went to the main poetry event. It is only natural that you did not see me. So that is how it was. Greetings, Grandfather Emperor, said Li Lizhu as she walked over and bowed. Li Yuan looked at the two of them curiously. What are you two doing here? Li Er did not hide anything inside. Today I saw Lizhu speaking happily with Mr. Qing, so I came to inquire. Originally, I wanted to have her marry him, but he already has a wife and concubine. Asking him to divorce and remarry a princess is impossible. So, I gave up the idea. Li Yuan's eyes lit up. He slapped his thigh and laughed. That would be a great match. Lang, you just reminded me, why not have Lizhu marry that Qing boy? That way, our imperial family would be bound to this disciple of the immortals. Li smiled wryly. Father, that would violate royal marriage law. Besides, knowing Mr. Qing's character, he would never agree to divorce. Even if Lizhu were made his primary wife and the others relegated to concubines, it would still be against the law. We can only abandon the idea. Li Yuan roared with laughter. Where there is a will, there is a way. What is so difficult about this? Lang, why does your brain stop working when it comes to serious matters? Li was dumbfounded. What do you mean, father? Li Yuan slapped his thigh again and laughed. Simple. You recognize Qing's wife as your adopted daughter. Then she becomes a princess too. After that, have Lizhu marry him. Which law could then object to our marrying two princesses to him? Li widened his eyes and opened his mouth in astonishment. Even Li Lizhu stood stunned like a wooden statue. Could it really be done that way? Li was utterly bewildered by Li Yuan's twisted logic. Li Lizhu was equally dumbfounded by her grandfather's train of thought. The father and daughter stood there frozen, several times trying to speak but not knowing how to respond. Li Yuan chuckled loudly and slapped Li Shimin on the shoulder. Lang, this marriage alliance, I am very optimistic about it. That Qing boy's talent and learning are more than enough for your eldest princess. He still has many true talents that have yet to be discovered. Who knows, that Qing lad might have the means to make the Great Tang a mighty nation envied by all. Whether you can seize the opportunity depends on you. With that, Li Yuan hummed a tune and walked off. Li fell into deep thought. Li Lizhu opened her mouth but did not disturb him. Instead, she quietly left with her younger sister, Li Lizzie. After leaving, Li Lizzie sat on Li Lizhu's lap, raised her face and asked, Sister, are you getting married? Li Lizhu gently tapped the tip of her nose and smiled faintly. Yes, sister is getting married. But sister does not yet know who she will marry. Of course it should be Mr. Qing. Li Lizzie exclaimed with joy. Grandpa Emperor said Mr. Qing is amazing. Today I ate cold noodles and drank pine needle tea, all made by Mr. Qing. They were really delicious. Grandpa Emperor also said he would take me to Mr. Qing's home for dinner tomorrow. He said the food at Mr. Qing's house is heavenly. If you marry Mr. Qing, I can eat at his house every day. Li Lizhu could not help but laugh and said with mock annoyance, Lizzie, why do you always think about eating? If you like the food at Mr. Qing's house so much, why not marry him yourself? Changlu tilted her small head and thought for a moment. Then she clapped her hands and smiled. Good. When I grow up, I will also marry Mr. Qing. That way, I can eat yummy food at his house all the time. Li Lizhu burst out laughing but took it as childish nonsense. Li came to his senses and noticed that both daughters had already left. Deep in thought, he too left the Yang pavilion. Perhaps Li Yuan's suggestion was actually feasible. He was thinking this to himself. However, Li did not make a decision yet. Instead, he considered whether he should go to Sanha village to truly meet Mr. Qing. When he returned to the Ganlu hall, a eunuch was already waiting for him. Seeing Li return, the eunuch quickly stepped forward and said, Your Majesty, Chancellor Fang Xianling requests an audience. We just parted ways. It has not even been half an hour. Why has he come again? Li murmured and asked, Where is he now? He is waiting in the side hall. Lead the way. Soon, Li arrived at the side hall of Ganlu Hall, where Fang Xianling was pacing with a grim expression. Xianling, what matter brings you here? Fang Xianling stepped forward and explained the whole situation from beginning to end. After hearing it, Li eyes widened. There is such a matter? Fang Xianling said angrily, Your Majesty, I merely submitted a memorial criticizing him. Yet Duke of Zan, Do Gue, plotted to harm the Fang family like this. I implore your Majesty to uphold justice for your humble servant. Li Er's expression darkened. Xianling, do you have evidence? Yes, I do. My son Eai has already captured the one who instigated it. He can be brought forth at any time to testify face to face. Very well. Li Er narrowed his eyes, a murderous intent flickering within. At tomorrow's morning court, bring Eai and the witness to confront him directly. Thank you, Your Majesty. After expressing his gratitude, Fang Xianling left the palace. Li Er's eyes remained cold and full of killing intent. He muttered to himself, the Dou family, what a fine clan of imperial relatives. Relying on Empress Dowager's shadow, they act with unchecked arrogance. To think they would sow discord between my ministers and the nobility, how despicable. The people Li Er truly held close were not these imperial relatives, but the veteran ministers of the Tiansu palace who had fought alongside him from youth, and the common people who supported the Tang dynasty. As for the Dou family, because of Li Yuan's connection, their position among the nobility was deeply entrenched. Though lacking true capability, they enjoyed abundant resources and fat posts. Were it not for considerations of Li Yuan's dignity, Li Er might have taken action against them long ago. In the residential quarters of the Yan family in Chang'an, as a prominent family of Confucian lineage, their mansion was grand yet elegant. Most buildings were made of wood, evoking a refined scholarly air. One look made it clear this was a household steeped in books and culture. In the rear courtyard's pavilion, a gentle breeze stirred the willows, and the scenery was serene. Miss, this is the list of poems that advanced to the third round of the Midsummer Poetry Gathering. Please have a look. A maid returned to the residence and handed over the list she had gathered to Yan Yushi. Unmoved, Yan Yushi slowly unrolled the list and began reviewing it carefully. Yan Yushi, born into a scholarly family, had been immersed in books since childhood. Not only was she stunningly beautiful, with features like those in paintings and the charm of a goddess, but her brows were filled with the aura of a well-read woman. Her temperament was elegant and aloof, with a slight chill to her demeanor. She wore a light green dress, her hair cascading like a waterfall, her jade-like face exquisitely beautiful, her slender neck graceful, her full bosom well-proportioned, and her waist so slim it could be encircled with one hand. Her skirt fluttered like a breeze. After a while, she lightly placed her jade-like fingers to her lips, her eyes brightening, and a refined smile appeared as she praised, scattered across heaven and earth, 10,000 miles of spring, that is beautifully written. This CI poem, Pazhenzi, is quite ingenious in its parallelism. But, pity the blind one born thus, could he be a blind man? Yan Yushi looked toward the maid. The maid explained, Miss, I heard that this Mr. Qing is the author of Pity the Peasants and the Admonitions for the Wise. He is indeed blind. Yan Yushi gently bit her lip, with a hint of unwillingness on her face. So he really is blind. Such talent, what a pity. But still, with such skill, it may not be a problem. Xiaocui, is he the poetry laureate of that day? Xiaocui shook her head. Miss, he was not. The laureate was someone named Meng Fangran. Meng Fangran? Yan Yushi was surprised. After searching the list, she finally found Meng Fangran's poem. She read it once and said, disappointed, how could this be? Meng Fangran's poetry is leagues beneath that of Mr. Qing. How could grandfather let him stand out? With grandfather's judgment, can he not see Mr. Qing's poetic brilliance? Xiaocui hesitated. Miss, I heard at Furong Garden that many people say the master was biased. They said the master had originally chosen Qing Xiu as the laureate, but upon learning he was blind, changed his mind and selected someone else. Yan Yushi's brows furrowed with anger and displeasure. And what else? Master also said Miss has a proud nature and would never marry a blind man. There are rumors that Master showed favoritism by naming Meng Fangran the laureate. Yan Yushi placed the poem list on the stone table and scolded lightly, how could grandfather do this? Clearly, he did not want to be criticized for marrying his legitimate granddaughter to a blind man, so he claimed I was proud by nature. How could he say that? Yan Yushi's eyes reddened with tears, she was nearly crying from being wronged by old Master Yan Silu. When had she ever been proud by nature? Even she did not know she had such a quality. Xiaocui added, Meng Fangran knew he was not as good as Mr. Qing and thus resigned the laureateship. Now people are saying the Yan family cannot take defeat. I heard. What else did you hear? I also heard that His Majesty personally stood up for Mr. Qing, saying he is the tutor of Prince Wei. After that, the master fainted from anger and has been taken to the clinic for treatment. Miss, our Yan family's reputation is nearly ruined. Everyone is gossiping, saying we look down on a blind man. Yan Yushi was filled with helplessness. She said, Xiaotsue, go ask the gatekeeper to prepare a carriage. Let us visit grandfather at the clinic first. Heaven forbid anything should happen to him from the shock. And do not let him hear any of the rumors for now. Yes, Mississippi. After Xiaotsue left, Yan Yushir went back to studying the poems, especially the line, a great rock rises with the wind in one day, soaring 90,000 miles into the sky. Even she, who had read countless books, could not help but be astonished. Medical hall. Old Master Yen Silu had already awakened. His eyes were dull as he stared at the rafters above, muttering repeatedly, how could it be? How could it be? He is actually the tutor of the Prince of Wei. To be appointed as a royal tutor was an incredibly prestigious status. Ling Gang was a prime example. No matter how prominent the Yen family might be among the Confucian elite, even they would have to bow and address Ling Gang as elder brother. A man in his 40s was currently consulting the physician of the medical hall. Physician Shen, how is my father's condition? Master Yen, the elder is not seriously ill. He simply suffered emotional agitation. A few days of rest and he will recover. Yen Shirgu took out a few taels of silver from his sleeve and handed them over. Physician Shen said, I will prescribe some calming medicine. 3 days of treatment should suffice. Yen Shirgu approached the sickbed and asked with concern, Father, how are you feeling? Yen Silu grabbed Yen Shirgu's hand and, visibly emotional, exclaimed, My son, I have erred. I made a grave mistake. It was a moment of foolishness, and that foolishness has caused disaster. I have ruined the reputation of our Yen family. I am a sinner to our name. Cloudy tears flowed from the old man's eyes. Yen Shirgu had already heard some harsh rumors on the way, that the Yen family could not handle defeat, but had not told his father. He simply smiled lightly and said, Father, what are you saying? The Yen family's reputation still stands. You are certainly no sinner. You do not understand. Yen Silu shook his head. How can our family's name be tainted by me? If because of me our honor is destroyed, how would I have the face to meet our ancestors in the afterlife? I must salvage the Yen family's reputation. Shirgu, go out and spread the word. Announce that the poetry laureate of today's midsummer gathering is Master Qing Xiu. Also, prepare generous gifts and visit the Qing residence tomorrow. I will go in person to offer an apology. Yen Shirgu was utterly shocked. Father, you are already over 70 years old. How can you personally go and apologize to a young man? I am the one who brought shame to our family name. I must be the one to restore it. My mind is made up. Go make the arrangements. Father, it is inappropriate. Yen Silu became displeased. I am not dead yet. Since when did you take over as the head of this household? Fine, very well. Just as Yen Shirgu was about to leave, soft footsteps approached from outside. Father, how is grandfather? Yen Yushir entered the sickroom with her maid. Your grandfather is fine. You came just in time. Stay here and look after him. I have things to attend to. I will send someone to fetch you later. After giving his instructions, Yen Shirgu left the medical hall. Yen Silu sighed. Yushir, you must have heard about what happened at the poetry gathering today, yes? Yen Yushir gently nodded. Yes, I have heard. Yen Silu spoke with deep regret. It was your grandfather's moment of foolishness that caused this blunder. Has our family's reputation in Chang'an already suffered damage? Yen Yushir nodded slightly. People are saying the Yen family goes back on its word. They say the Yen family cannot handle losing. Some are even saying that grandfather is blind to talent and looked down on a blind man. Upon hearing this, Yen Silu's expression turned pained. He closed his eyes and said nothing more. Yen Yushir quickly said, Grandfather, what has happened has happened. It is already done. But this alone is not enough to destroy our family's honor. Please, do not take it to heart. Just rest and focus on recovering. Yen Silu sat up abruptly and declared, No matter what, our family's reputation must not be ruined by me. I have already instructed your father to spread the message. What message? Yen Yushir asked, puzzled. Yen Silu replied, that Master Qing Xiu is the true laureate of today's gathering. What the Yen family says, it shall do. Yen Yushir's heart trembled. A hint of unwillingness surfaced on her face. Was she truly to marry a blind man? Yen Silu sighed. Yushir, your grandfather knows that asking you to marry a blind man is unfair. But to restore our family's name, I must ask you to make this sacrifice. Yen Yushir wore a bitter expression and gently shook her head. There is no need to speak of fairness. Master Qing's poetic talent is unrivaled in the world. Even if he cannot see, I accept it. Good. That you can think this way comforts me greatly. Yen Yushir wanted to speak, then hesitated. She asked herself inwardly, must I truly marry a blind man? But she forgot one thing, the blind man might not even want her. At the same time, in Qinglong Ward. This had once been a general's residence, but now a new sandalwood plaque hung proudly at the gate, bearing 2 golden characters, Qing Residence. The gate stood 1 zhang high, painted crimson and studded with brass nails. 2 stone tigers guarded the entrance, exuding an imposing majesty. A large halberd stood at the porter's station, a sign that this was once a warrior's home. Though he was no general, Qing Xiu had not removed the symbols of martial honor, but left them intact. Aside from custom-ordered furniture from Carpenter Zhang, the soft furnishings had all been set in place after 2 days of shopping. On both sides of the front courtyard were over 20 rooms, for the maids and servants. The master of the house lived in the rear. Qing Xiu was currently in a large room in the rear courtyard, directing a group of house guards in their work. By the end of the afternoon, they had built a furnace. When Su Xiaochun returned and saw the scene, she could not help but ask, "Husband, why are you building a furnace inside the house? The rear courtyard is vast, several acres at least." Qing Xiu pulled her aside and explained, "I plan to fire a batch of jade-colored glass. This stuff is so valuable, if we fire it outside and word gets out that we are making glass from sand, we might lose our chance to profit. That is why the glass must be fired indoors, and only by people we fully trust." Su Xiaochun was visibly excited. "Husband, can we really make glass? Take out the word can. We will definitely make it. If we can produce flat glass, it will be even better." Su Xiaochun looked confused. "What is flat glass? You would not understand even if I explained. In time, you will see." If he could produce flat glass, even if it was uneven in thickness or slightly wavy, he could construct a glass greenhouse in the yard. That way, they could have fresh vegetables even in winter. Since the courtyard wall was 1 zhang high, a 2-meter-high glasshouse would be no problem. The dream was beautiful, but who knew how reality would play out? They worked until nightfall and finally completed the furnace. Qing Xiu decided to begin testing it with sand the next day. Old Dao had moved in with 20 house guards. Su Xiaochun and Yunyang went to the broker's office and selected a dozen young maidservants. Yunyang took 4 of them to the kitchen to teach them cooking. Su Xiaochun had already accepted Yunyang as her husband's concubine, and decided not to let her do the cooking anymore. It always left her dirty and tired, and the smoke could damage her skin. At dusk, Old Ma, the gatekeeper, entered the rear courtyard. "Master, a merchant from Jiangnan surnamed Lin has come to call." Old Ma was over 50 and still single. He had no interest in women, but loved his gatekeeping duties. At his persistent request, Qing Xiu had agreed to let him be the doorman. "A merchant from Jiangnan? Let him wait in the front hall. Serve some tea. I will come shortly." After finishing his tasks, Qing Xiu went to the guest hall in the front courtyard. Seated at the tea table was a young gentleman dressed in fine clothes, with crimson lips and white teeth, fair skin, and an almost demonic handsomeness. From the omniscient perspective, Qing Xiu raised his brows and smiled faintly. A delicate fragrance hung in the air of the hall. A woman in disguise? Interesting. "My name is Lin Fei, from Jiangnan. My family runs a textile business. I apologize for intruding upon Master Qing." Upon hearing Lin Gongzi's voice, Qing Xiu smiled again. The moment he entered the room, Qing Xiu had realized that this Lin Fei was a woman in disguise. The light fragrance around her was distinct and pleasant. Even though her voice had been deliberately altered to sound rougher, it still clearly bore unmistakably feminine characteristics. "And what brings you here to see me, Lin Gongzi?" Lin Fei smiled and said, "Today at Furong Garden, I had the honor of witnessing Master Qing's brilliance at the Midsummer Poetry Gathering. However, I am not here out of admiration for your poetic talent. I came to discuss a business proposition. Today I found a tea house in Ani Ward. The tea was delightfully fragrant, something I have not encountered even in Jiangnan. After asking around, I learned that Xinglong Tea House belongs to you, Master Qing. I wanted to ask whether you have any plans to sell your tea in Jiangnan?" Qing Xiu smiled and asked, "And what are your thoughts, Lin Gongzi?" Lin Fei replied, "To be frank, my family has a fair number of connections in Jiangnan and is deeply involved in the silk trade. If Master Qing intends to sell tea there, the Lin family can provide storefronts and assist with sales. However, we would require a 30% commission. What do you think?" Qing Xiu's expression darkened. "You are quite bold, opening with a 30% commission." Lin Fei replied coolly, "Business is business, it is open for discussion. How much does Master Qing consider reasonable?" Qing Xiu countered, "Did I ever agree to partner with you?" "This." Lin Fei hesitated. "Does Master Qing not intend to sell tea in Jiangnan?" "Of course I do," said Qing Xiu. "In fact, I have already sent people to conduct market research. Jiangnan is wealthy and indeed a great place to sell tea. I only need to open a few shops and station some staff. That would cost no more than 10% in labor and operational costs. Why should I give up 30% of the profit to you? Lin Fei laughed. Master Qing might not be aware, Jiangnan has its fair share of local bullies and tyrants. To put it bluntly, the mountains are high and the emperor is far away. Local officials often collude with these bullies to exploit merchants and commoners. Such things are common in Jiangnan. You, Master Qing, have no local connections. Entering the market would not be easy. The Lin family has been in business for generations and has influence in Jiangnan. Local officials and bullies would not dare to act against us. All you need to do is supply the tea. The rest will be handled by the Lin family. You need not lift a finger, just wait to collect money. Is that not a good deal? It is a good deal, Qing Xiu frowned. But 30% is too much. I cannot afford that. Producing high-quality tea involves complex procedures and costs quite a bit. The profit margins are only 30 to 40%. If you take 30, what is the point of me doing this business? Lin Fei fell silent. Qing Xiu smirked slightly. Of course he knew the actual cost of tea was less than 10%. But Miss Lin was no expert. How could she know the real cost was so low? Suddenly, Lin Fei smiled. How about 20%? Qing Xiu put on a troubled expression. Lin Fei quickly added, Master Qing, without profit, the Lin family would not get involved. You do not need to work, just collect the money. Even at 20%, is that really unacceptable? Qing Xiu sighed. 20% is acceptable, but I have a condition. What condition? Currently, we offer two kinds of tea, Biluakun at 2 taels per jin and Yuguanin at 10 taels per jin. I do not object to you selling them. But if you want to be my distributor, I can give you wholesale pricing. Lin Fei's eyes lit up. How low? Biluakun at 4 taels, Yuguanin at 8 taels, exactly your 20% commission. You just pay up front and take the goods. As for how much you sell it for in Jiangnan, that is your business. What do you think? Lin Fei was delighted. Deal. Once the tea reaches Jiangnan, she could name any price she liked. Qing Xiu smiled. Do not be too quick to celebrate. Tea prices are sensitive. A 10-tael tea in Chang'an might fetch 12 in Jiangnan at most. It all depends on consumer acceptance. If you price it too high at the start, you might ruin your reputation. Lin Fei thought for a moment and nodded. I will remember Master Qing's advice. I did not bring much silver this time. I will write a letter to Jiangnan and come again when the funds arrive. Very well. Lao Ma, please see our guest out. After Lin Fei left, the meal was ready. Li Tai, like a dog sniffing a bone, showed up as soon as he smelled the food. This time, he brought many gifts, ornaments, trinkets, even gold and silverware. Such fine offerings were not refused. Qing Xiu ordered the servants to move everything to the rear courtyard. Master, Li Tai said cheerfully, congratulations on moving into your new home. Now that you are in Chang'an, it will be much easier for us to meet. Qing Xiu shook his head. I am not planning to live here just yet. This place has been abandoned for too long. It feels lifeless and damp. It needs people to bring it back to life. So for the next few months, I will stay on the estate. Li Tai asked, then should I still go to the estate tomorrow for class? Qing Xiu smiled and shook his head, then handed him a wax-sealed letter. Tomorrow, I have a task for you. Li Tai curiously took the letter. What is this? Give this letter to your father tomorrow. Have him deliver it to His Majesty. A letter to father, to His Majesty? Qing Xiu corrected him with a smile. Not to your father, to His Majesty. Oh, understood. I will hand it to my father, and he will give it directly to the emperor. He chuckled to himself. Giving it to his father or the emperor, it made no difference. After dinner, the city curfew had begun, so Qing Xiu decided to spend the night in the new house and return to the estate in the morning. Night fell. Qing Xiu went to bed early. Su Xiaochun, after dinner, had disappeared into Yunyang's room and had not come out since. Just as he began to feel drowsy, the door creaked open. Using his divine sense, Qing Xiu realized who had arrived, and was clearly surprised. It was not Su Xiaochun, it was Yunyang. She wore a light green dress, her damp hair still glistening from a recent bath. Under the candlelight, her fair face was tinged with red, her long neck glowing, the open neckline revealing delicate collarbones and the generous curve of her chest, forming an enchanting silhouette. Qing Xiu did not confront her. Instead, he asked calmly, Madam, what kept you so late? Yunyang said nothing, slowly moving toward the bed. Qing Xiu smiled faintly, lifted the blanket, and patted the spot beside him. Come, it is already warm. Yunyang blushed deeply. Biting her lip, she strode over and without a word slipped into the covers. Qing Xiu was startled. You are not my wife. Who are you? Yunyang whispered shyly, Master, I am Yunyang. Yunyang? Why are you here? Where is the lady of the house? It was the lady who sent me. Qingxiu scowled. She sent you, so you just came? You obey her that easily? I? Yunyang was both flustered and shy. Qingxiu sternly said, I brought you in as the cook. Why do you only obey the lady? You should listen to me too. Kulme. Yunyang froze, her cheeks crimson. And so, the rest required no explanation. There is no finer feeling than gently pressing the back of Yunyang's head, Qingxiu's favorite thing to do. And if that is not enough, then move a little deeper. To finish things off with a bit of indulgence, life should be full of flavor and delight. In ancient times, beauties were said to leave lotus blossoms with each step. Today, Yunyang's feet seemed to take root with every movement. One had to admit, Yunyang had indeed inherited Madame Zhang's true teachings. Her mastery of the 36 arts far exceeded that of Su Xiaochun, managing to best Qingxiu several times in succession. The next morning, after leaving a dozen servants behind to reside in the Qing residence, Qingxiu took his entire household and returned to the estate. The new house was simply too damp. Staying for a day or two was fine, but prolonged residence would cause skin rashes. Recently, Li Er had moved the morning court to the Hall of Supreme Harmony, which was far more spacious than the Hall of Martial Virtue. As soon as court began, Fang Xianling started voicing his grievances. Your Majesty, I must accuse Duxan of the state, Do Gue. This opening remark was like dropping a bomb. The entire court was immediately in uproar. What is happening? Did he not just accuse Duxan a few days ago? And now again? Who knows? Maybe old Fang is just bored. Even Duxan is attending court today? Could it be that he already knew the Grand Chancellor was going to impeach him? Do Gue, who stood among the civil officials, frowned but said nothing. The eunuch handed over Fang Xuanling's memorial. Li Er pretended to read it for a moment before slapping the table in anger, shouting, Duxan, step forward. Startled, Do Gue hurriedly stepped out. Your Majesty, I am here. Li Er said coldly, in this memorial, Minister Fang accuses your son, Do Fengjie, of inciting conflict between Fang Eai and Baron Qing of Lan Tian. Do you not know that Baron Qing is the tutor I personally appointed for the Prince of Wei? How do you explain this? Do Gui's heart sank. He truly did not know that Qingxiu was the Prince of Wei's teacher. Members of the imperial family working in the ancestral office usually did not attend court unless specially summoned. He had only received notice to attend yesterday afternoon and had been puzzled by it. Now he understood, it was because this matter had been exposed so swiftly. Even more shocking was the revelation that Qingxiu was a tutor appointed by the emperor himself. Things were becoming complicated. Slander. Do Gue cried out angrily. Your Majesty, this is slander. Fang Xianling has no evidence and is clearly framing this old minister. Li Er looked to Fang Xianling. Minister Fang, Duxan is my uncle. Be sure you are not falsely accusing him. Do you have proof? Grinding his teeth, Fang Xianling replied, if he wants evidence, I will give him evidence. Your Majesty, the witness is already waiting outside. Do Gue, do you dare face the witness in open court? Why would I not? Do Gue forced himself to appear calm. He could not understand how this had been exposed so quickly. He dared face the witness only because of his status as the emperor's uncle. At worst, he could countersue Fang Xianling for false accusation. Bring in the witness. Soon, Wang Xiutong, with a bruised and swollen face, was brought in. He had never seen such a formal setting before. As soon as he entered the Hall of Supreme Harmony, he collapsed to the floor, trembling, his face pale as death. Fang Xianling said sternly, Wang Xiutong, recount everything you know in full. This is the imperial court, and the one seated above is our emperor. You must not conceal a single detail, otherwise, you will face severe punishment. Shaking, Wang Xiutong stammered, yesterday, young Lord Do Fengjie approached me, gave me 50 taels of silver, and instructed me to stir up conflict between Fang Eai and Master Qing. He promised another 50 taels afterward. I did as he asked. Wang Xiutong had been beaten several times already. He dared not hide anything. He stuttered through the entire story. Li Er's face darkened. Duxan, what do you have to say? Injustice. Do Gue cried out. Your Majesty, this has nothing to do with this old minister. Just days ago, Minister Fang falsely accused me of a fabricated crime. Thankfully, Your Majesty saw the truth and cleared my name. In my humble opinion, this is a vendetta. Fang Xianling is now trying to frame me again. He must have found someone to falsely testify against me. I beg Your Majesty to investigate thoroughly. Fang Xianling was fuming. His face flushed red as he shouted, why would I frame you? You are the one framing me. You despicable old scoundrel, how dare you twist the truth? Your Majesty, summoned Do Fengjie and Fang Yiai to confront each other in open court. Just as Li Er was about to respond, a voice came from outside, Your Majesty, the Prince of Wei requests an audience. Li Er frowned. Why is the Prince of Wei coming to the Hall of Supreme Harmony now? Does he not know we are holding court? A eunuch replied, Your Majesty, the Prince of Wei says he brings a letter from Master Qing for Your Majesty. Startled, Li Er said, A letter from Master Qing? Let him in. Soon, Li Tai entered with a letter in hand. Wang De received the letter and handed it to Li Er. Li Er did not open it immediately but asked, Prince of Wei, did Master Qing give you any other instructions? Li Tai shook his head. Nothing else. Master Qing simply asked me to deliver this letter. Now that it is delivered, I take my leave. Without lingering, Li Tai left the hall, lest he give Wei Zheng any ammunition for criticism. Li Er opened the envelope. Upon reading the contents, his eyes widened in fury. Outrageous. How dare this happen? Officials glanced at one another, guessing what might have been in the letter to so enrage the emperor. Li Er looked toward an official in his 60s. Chief Justice Dai Zhou, take your men to the ancestral office immediately. Examine the registered land deeds and royal properties. Hearing this, Do Gui's pupils contracted, a chill creeping down his spine. Anxiety took root. Li Er continued, Chang He, lead the imperial guards to surround the ancestral office. Not even a fly is to escape, especially Do Fengjie. Keep a close watch on him. Yes, Your Majesty. Dai Zhou and Chang He departed with their orders. The Court of Judicial Review was responsible for handling legal cases, and Dai Zhou was its head. Chang He had formerly served the deposed Crown Prince Li Jianqing and now commanded the palace guards. Do Gui suppressed his panic and asked in confusion, Your Majesty, why investigate the ancestral office? Why surround it with imperial guards? What is the reason? Li Er said coldly, Duke Zan, your unworthy son has been secretly selling off royal property. Were you aware? Though Do Gui's heart sank to the abyss, he refused to sit idly by. Your Majesty, I have managed the ancestral office for years and knew nothing of this. My son has always been cautious and diligent. Please do not be misled by one man's letter. Misled? Li Er sneered. Could a commoner write, let horses gallop upon the general's head, and sail a boat within a chancellor's belly? Could a scoundrel pen, why should men not carry golden hooks, and reclaim the 16 prefectures of Yan and Yun? If someone like Master Qing, who composed such heroic verses, is a scoundrel, then who in this realm could be called righteous? Do Gui said gravely, Your Majesty, I do not deny Master Qing's poetic talent. But he holds no official position, how could he know what happens inside the ancestral office? Do you not find it suspicious? Li Er narrowed his eyes. Duke Zan, I understand what you mean. Justice will prevail. If nothing improper is found at the ancestral office, I will clear Fengjie's name. As for any suspicions, I shall question Master Qing personally. You need not concern yourself. Do Gui's heart trembled. Only now did he fully realize, His Majesty had decided to act against the Do family. Everything said so far had merely been a pretense. It was likely this was all part of a plan, orchestrated by the emperor himself. Dai Zhou returned in a flurry, clutching a stack of documents in his arms. Your Majesty, Dai Zhou said, this minister went to the Office of Imperial Clan Affairs and cross-checked the royal properties. Over 30 property deeds in Chang'an alone were missing. There were also over 10 deeds missing from Luoyang and Jiangnan. Li Er's face was as dark as water. He stared coldly at Do Gui and pronounced each word slowly, Duke Zan, do you still have any defense left? Do Gui clenched his fists tightly but feigned shock and said, Your Majesty, I truly was unaware. I conduct a thorough audit of royal property every year. During the last review, not a single coin was unaccounted for, how could so much now be missing? Given the circumstances, he could only try to protect himself. As for his utterly depraved son, who indulged in all manner of vice, he could no longer worry about him, better to offer him up as a scapegoat. You ask me? Would I know? Li Er rebuked. Guards, go to the Office of Imperial Clan Affairs and seize Do Fengjie. Bring him to the Hall of Supreme Harmony. The court fell into dead silence. Soon, Do Fengjie was dragged into the hall. He appeared visibly shaken and said, Your Majesty, this humble subject Do Fengjie greets Your Majesty. May I ask why I have been brought here in custody? Li Er, his face devoid of emotion, said, The Court of Judicial Review has verified that over 40 deeds, properties in Chang'an, Luoyang, and Jiangnan, are missing. Do Fengjie, as a registrar of the Office of Imperial Clan Affairs, how do you explain this? Do Fengjie felt a chill rise in his chest and exclaimed in shock, What? That many deeds are missing? How could that be? Just days ago I conducted a check, how could they suddenly vanish? Li Er's lip twitched. And you ask me? Make it clear, I am asking you. I do not know. Perhaps a thief broke into the office and stole the deeds. Li Er sneered, even now you are still lying? Do you really think I, or the Court of Judicial Review, are fools? If we were to check whether those properties are inhabited, or if they have been illegally sold, do you think I cannot uncover the truth? Uncovering the truth is only a matter of time. Do Fengjie's face turned ashen. He glanced fearfully at his father. He saw that his father had closed his eyes in anguish. At that moment, he felt all was lost. Suddenly, Do Gue opened his eyes and bellowed, "Wretched son. Is it true? Speak." Do Fengjie collapsed to the floor and trembled as he said, "Yes, I confess. I sold those properties." Li Er's eyes flared with fury. "So many estates, worth over 100,000 strings of cash, and you sold them all? Where is the stolen money?" "The money? I gambled it away. I lost everything." Do Fengjie lowered his head in deep regret. "Over 100,000 strings of silver lost to gambling?" Li Er roared, "Guards! Drag Do Fengjie out and beat him to death with sticks." Do Fengjie's expression changed dramatically. He wailed, "Second brother. We are cousins. I am your blood relative. I beg you, spare my life. Spare me. My lord. Save me. My lord. Please." Do Fengjie was utterly terrified. A flicker of hesitation crossed Li Er's eyes. Do Gue hurriedly stepped forward, knelt, and pleaded, "Your Majesty, please show mercy. Fengjie embezzled royal property, but does not deserve death. For the sake of your maternal uncle, Your Majesty, spare his life, he is my only son." Li Er said darkly, "Duke-san, this is not about kinship or blood. During the early years of the Zhenguan reign, funds are needed everywhere. Even I have tightened my belt to reduce spending. The empress has so reduced palace expenses that her skirts no longer cover her feet. All the princes and officials have had their budgets cut time and again, and yet your son squandered over 100,000 strings of cash in gambling. According to the law, he deserves death. But," Li Er suddenly changed tone, "considering our kinship, he is, after all, my cousin. Duke-san, tell me, how do you think he should be punished?" Do Gue slowly rose, his face stricken with grief, and painfully uttered 4 words, "Exile to Lingnan." Li Er nodded, "So be it. Do Fengjie shall be exiled to Lingnan, and for the rest of his life shall never set foot in Chang'an again. Thank you, Your Majesty. Thank you for your mercy." Compared to execution by beating, exile to Lingnan was already a light punishment. Yet ordinary people rarely survived the miasma and disease of that swampy, pestilential region. In effect, exile to Lingnan was almost a death sentence. Still, given the Do family's connections, this outcome might not be the worst possible scenario. At that moment, Li Er turned to Do Gue and declared icily, "Duke-san, for dereliction of duty, you are hereby dismissed from the office of Imperial Clan Affairs. Your noble title is revoked, and you are stripped of office and sent home to retire. Prince Jiangxia, Li Daozong, shall assume your post as director of the office." Do Gue's head snapped up in disbelief. By the time he reacted, Li Er had already turned and departed. Wang De tactfully announced, "Court is dismissed." "Your Majesty." Do Gue's voice echoed through the Hall of Supreme Harmony, betraying the full force of his outrage. His eyes burned with fury as he cried, "Your Majesty, I was only guilty of negligence. Why revoke my title and dismiss me? I object to this punishment. It is unjust. Your Majesty, I object." Only the empty echoes of the Great Hall responded. The civil and military officials looked at Do Gue, some shook their heads in pity, others were gloating. Once outside the hall, murmured discussions quickly sprang up in small groups. His Majesty was ruthless. Dereliction of duty is not treason, yet he stripped Duke-san of everything. The Do family had protection from the retired emperor and deep-rooted influence at court. They had no real merit, yet held high positions and lucrative offices. His Majesty has long wanted to act, he just needed an excuse. But even so, he was harsh. That was his own uncle. You do not understand. These brothers of Empress Dowager Taimu were once allies of the former crown prince. Now that the retired emperor has abdicated, His Majesty will seize every chance to dismantle the Do clan. Shoo! Be careful what you say, lest disaster come from your mouth. But this Master Qing, he is truly capable. A single letter and he brought down a duke, His Majesty's own uncle. Best not to offend Master Qing. No wonder he is Prince Wei's tutor, he is clearly a man of thunderous power. I would love to meet this Master Qing. I wonder what kind of extraordinary figure he must be. Many officials began imagining what Master Qing might look like. Without exception, they pictured a sage with a youthful face and white hair. Inside the hall, Li Daozong was still bewildered. Congratulations, Prince Jiangxia, on receiving a lucrative post. Best wishes, Prince Jiangxia. Do Gue shot Li Daozong a venomous glare, let out a cold snort, and departed. He knew the tide had turned. Staying would only further disgrace him. Li Er had made it clear, he would show no mercy. Even requesting another audience seemed out of reach now. As for Li Daozong, Li Yuan's nephew, Li Er's cousin, and the father of the famed Princess Wencheng, he was among those Li Er trusted most in court. Returning to the palace of establishing governance, Li Er could not suppress the smile playing at his lips. Chang Sun Wugo, seeing him so genuinely happy, smiled as well. Second brother, what has brought you such joy? Li Er took the empress's hand and laughed. Guanyin Bai, you do not know. Today I accomplished a great deed. What deed? Chang Sun Wugo asked in confusion. I stripped Do Gue of his title and office. The empress was utterly shocked. Li Er laughed again. It was all thanks to Qingxue's teacher, Master Qing, who gave me the perfect excuse. Otherwise, who knows when I would have reclaimed control of the office of imperial clan affairs. Chang Sun Wugo smiled sweetly. Then your majesty must thank Master Qing properly. Of course. Tomorrow, I intend to visit Sanha village in person and meet this Master Qing face to face. May I come along? Haha, of course. Then it is settled. Outside the city of Chang'an, Do Gue looked at his son, who was bound in shackles. Overwhelmed with grief, tears streamed down his face. From his sleeve, he pulled out 2 heavy silver ingots and a letter. Handing the silver ingots to the 2 officials escorting his son, Do Gue said, the road ahead is long and arduous. I ask you both to take good care of him. Even a dead camel is bigger than a horse. Though Do Gue had been dismissed from office and stripped of his title, his status was still far above that of ordinary folk. After all, he still had several cousins and clan members holding real power. The officials quickly nodded and bowed. Duke Zan is too courteous. We will certainly look after your son. Once we pass beyond the Guangzhou region, we will remove his shackles. He will not suffer any hardship on the journey. If it had been an ordinary criminal exiled to Lingnan, the officers would not have cared about his life or death. They might even have found a deserted spot, killed him, and buried the body, then returned after 2 months claiming the mission was done. Such cases were common in ancient times. Father, Do Fengjia's voice was choked. How did it come to this? Just yesterday, everything was still fine. Do Gue clenched his teeth and said bitterly, blame that damned blind man. We bore him no grudge, yet he struck so ruthlessly. Fear not, my son. I will speak with your elder cousins. That blind bastard will not die a natural death. This letter is for Prince Feng'ang of Lingnan. Back in the day, your father and Feng'ang had some acquaintance. Once you are in Lingnan, far from the emperor's reach, with Feng'ang's protection, your life will not be worse than in Chang'an. Do Fengjie silently took the letter, a fierce expression on his face. Father, we must not let that damned blind man off the hook. Rest assured. One of the officials reminded him, Duke Zan, it is time. We must depart with your son now. Go on, then. I leave him in your hands. The officers pulled the shackles and began the long journey of exile. Watching his son leave, Do Gue climbed into a carriage. The coachman asked, Master, where shall we go? With a cold expression, Do Gue said, to Sanha village. I must meet that Master Qing in person. And so, the coachman drove the carriage toward Sanha village. At this time, Sanha village had grown beyond what could be described as thriving. Several dozen red brick and tile-roofed houses stood in rows, interspersed with spacious workshops. One of these workshops was used specifically for tea roasting. The others were prepared for future needs and would surely come into use. On the estate, the atmosphere was lively and bustling. Several teams of workers were furiously building new structures, extending a street market from the eastern end of the estate all the way to the western end of the village. Vegetable vendors, meat sellers, grain traders, poultry merchants, snack peddlers, countless hawkers from other villages had come to set up their stalls, making the whole estate a scene of vibrant activity. Li Tai, having delivered the letter, returned for his lessons. Master Qing had assigned him a simple new task. Since he had learned Arabic numerals and multiplication tables, it was time to learn division. Problems like 3 parts of a well and pheasants and rabbits in the same cage were advanced for this era. Division alone would keep him busy for days. Since his return, Li Tai had been immersed in practicing division, almost becoming obsessed. At only 8 years old, the poor child had a tough task ahead. It was not yet mealtime, but that did not stop Li Yuan from dropping by for food. This time, however, he did not come alone. He brought 2 granddaughters, one older and one younger, and, of course, a jar of 3-herb brew, his essential mealtime companion. The elder granddaughter was none other than Princess Xiangqing, Li Liju. As for the younger one, she looked like a porcelain doll, exquisitely delicate. One could tell at a glance she was a budding beauty, with a sharp tongue and clever features. As soon as she entered, she curiously looked around in all directions. Li Liju greeted respectfully, her voice soft and gentle. "Greetings, Master Qing." Master Qing nodded with a smile. "You are Master Qing?" The younger girl, Li Lianji, tilted her head and studied him curiously. Master Qing crouched down, pinched her cheek, and smiled. "Yes, I am. And who might you be?" "I am Li Changle." Li Lianji frowned and pushed his hand away. "Grandfather said your household makes delicious food every day. I do not believe it, unless you cook for me." Master Qing suddenly understood. So this was Princess Changle, Li Lianji. No wonder such a young child was already so bright and even knew how to use reverse psychology. Master Qing put on a stern face and said, "Although our food is delicious, not just anyone can eat it. You must work for your meal." "What work must I do?" Li Lianji asked innocently. Master Qing sat on a small stool, pointed to his back, and said, "Massage my back for the duration of 1 incense stick, and then you may stay for the meal." "That is easy." Li Lianji happily moved behind him and raised her tiny fists to begin pounding his back. Li Liju smiled and feigned annoyance. "Master Qing, my sister is only 5 years old. Is this how you bully children?" Master Qing replied with a half-smile, "Am I not? Do not forget you once helped me turn the soil in the vegetable patch." Li Liju rolled her eyes. Li Yuan grumbled, "Even I cannot bear to have my precious granddaughter pound my back, and here you are taking liberties. Changle, do not bother with him, come to Grandpa's side." Master Qing quickly shouted, "Yunyang, stop cooking. We are eating out today." Li Yuan waved his hand. "Fine, fine, fine. You win. Changle, hit harder. Pound him well." "Yes, Grandpa," Li Lianji exclaimed as she pounded with all her might. Soon, she was sweating profusely. At that moment, Urguzi arrived at the door and said, "Lord Duke, someone from the Yen family has brought a visiting card." Master Qing looked puzzled. "A card from the Yen family? Bring it here." Urguzi handed over the card. Master Qing passed it to Li Yuan and said, "I cannot see. Old Li, read it for me." Li Yuan opened the card and sneered, "Ah, so that old rascal Yen Silu has finally understood the power of the people. Yesterday, he was partial and unjust, denying you the poetry prize. As a result, the Yen family's reputation was utterly ruined in one afternoon. Fortunately, he is trying to make amends in time. This is a formal apology with modest gifts, a sign of humility. He is still capable of taking and letting go. Truly worthy of being a great scholar of Guanzhong." Li Yuan stood up. "I will go greet him. Master Qing, prepare yourself to receive him. He is a respected scholar, we must give him due courtesy." Master Qing nodded. "You go ahead. I will freshen up and follow shortly." Li Yuan strode to the village entrance, where a carriage had stopped. Yen Silu, accompanied by Yen Shurgu, was gazing in awe at the thriving scene of Sanha village. "Shurgu, this is not right. Did we come to the wrong place? Earlier this year I passed through here, it was in ruins. How is it now so prosperous? It is nearly comparable to Chang'an." His words were slightly exaggerated, but at this pace of development, matching Chang'an's splendor would not take long. The village's construction followed modern rural planning principles. Houses were neatly arranged in rows, not in the style of Chang'an, but orderly and aesthetically pleasing. Even the village roads were paved with red bricks, a stunning contrast in this muddy age, so clean and organized that they left a lasting impression. Yen Shurgu was also amazed. "Father, this is definitely the place. The fork of the Ba River is just nearby, we have not lost our way." "Hey, old Yen!" Li Yuan laughed heartily as he walked over. Yen Silu and his son, startled, hurriedly bowed. "Greetings, retired emperor." Li Yuan glanced around and whispered, "Do not call me that here. The villagers do not know my identity, do not give me away." Yen Shurgu froze for a moment, then nodded. "We would never expose Mr. Li's identity." Yen Silu shamelessly called out, "Brotherly." Master Qing had sent Li Yuan ahead precisely to give this warning. If everyone were too formal, future interactions would become far too constrained. Yen Silu exclaimed in astonishment, "Brotherly, how is this place so prosperous? When I came here at the start of the year, it was still a dilapidated wasteland. In just a few short months, it has flourished like this." Li Yuan laughed and explained, Old Yen, you do not know, this is the fiefdom of that young man Qing Xiu. Everything you see here, all this prosperity, was built by that lad himself." Yen Silu was even more amazed and sighed, "Alas, I must have been blind with lard yesterday. This Master Qing has truly benefited the common people and built a veritable utopia. We are not his equal, we cannot compare." Yen Shurgu echoed, "Indeed. Not only does he possess great talent, but he also holds the welfare of the people close to heart. No wonder His Majesty entrusted Prince Wei to study under him. Yen Silu looked rather downcast and said, "It was shallow of me. I once thought myself capable, but now I see I am merely a pedantic scholar who only speaks theory. Compared to Master Qing, a noble who accomplishes real deeds, I fall far too short." Li Yuan pointed toward a house and laughed. "Look, that is my humble residence. It is so comfortable, even more so than the imperial palace." Upon hearing this, both men turned to look and could not help showing expressions of envy. At that moment, the sound of a blind man's staff tapping the ground could be heard from a distance. Qing Xiu was slowly approaching. Yen Silu quickly said, "Shirgu, Master Qing is blind, go and help him." Yen Shirgu was about to move forward, but Li Yuan interjected, "No need. Since I met that lad, he has never once stumbled." Qing Xiu smiled upon hearing this. "Old Li, you just were not around when I did stumble." Young man Qing Xiu greets Elder Yen. Qing Xiu clasped his hands in respect toward Yen Silu. Yen Silu responded quickly, "No need for formality. I have come to offer my apologies." It was clear that Elder Yen had come sincerely seeking forgiveness. Qing Xiu asked curiously, "What wrong has Master Yen committed?" With a solemn expression, Yen Silu said, "I have come to apologize for my poor judgment yesterday. I should not have held bias against you for being blind. Worse still, I acted with partiality and allowed personal feelings to cloud my judgment." Qing Xiu's expression remained calm. Elder Yen overstates things. The title of poetry champion is but an empty name. I never placed much value in it. I only participated in the poetry gathering yesterday because I was provoked, and in a fit of pride, I dared to show off before masters. In hindsight, that was unbecoming. But your personal visit today to apologize speaks volumes of your character. I cannot compare. Yen Silu solemnly bowed and said, "Regardless, it was my own shallowness. I ask for your forgiveness, Master Qing." Qing Xiu tried to stop him, but knowing he was blind and unable to see, he simply accepted the gesture. Elder Yan's magnanimity is vast as the sea. If I were to cling to resentment, it would show a lack of respect. "Elder Yan, a banquet has been prepared. Would you do me the honor of joining us?" "Well," Yen Silu looked at Li Yuan. Li Yuan laughed. "It is only a meal." Yen Silu, smiling broadly, said, "Then I shall accept your hospitality. Please, this way." Bringing Yen Silu and his son inside, Qing Xiu introduced them to Su Xiaochun. "Wife, this is the head of the Yen family, Elder Yen Silu." Su Xiaochun, though uneducated, carried herself with politeness and dignity. Her manners were impeccable. This humble woman greets Elder Yen and Master Yen. Though she had never attended school and was illiterate, the name of Elder Yen was well known in Guangzhou. Few had not heard of the Yen family. Looking a bit uncomfortable, Yen Silu asked, "So, Master Qing, you are already married?" "Yes, I already have a wife." Yen Shirgu's face also darkened slightly. "Master Qing already has a wife, surely you do not expect our daughter to become a concubine?" Qing Xiu was dumbfounded. Su Xiaochun looked at her husband in disbelief. She bit her lip lightly, her gaze filled with hurt. Qing Xiu explained, "You misunderstand, dear wife. Yesterday, at the hibiscus garden, some mocked me, saying a blind man had no place there. I was angered, so I wrote a few poems on a whim, and unexpectedly won the poetry championship. Only afterward did I learn that the prize for the champion was the hand of the Yen family's legitimate daughter. I truly had no idea beforehand." Su Xiaochun clearly remained doubtful. Li Yuan, watching from the side, smirked and glanced proudly at his granddaughter Li Lizhu. If someone were to marry, it ought to be his granddaughter, not some Yen daughter. After all, is a princess not more fitting than a mere scholar's daughter? Qing Xiu continued, "Elder Yen, I had no intention of seeking your daughter's hand. This was all a misunderstanding. Please, do not take it to heart." Yen Silu huffed, "Nonsense. I made a public promise, whoever won the poetry championship would marry my daughter. All of Chang'an knows. If you refuse, people will say our Yen family goes back on our word." Li Yuan chuckled maliciously. "Old Yen, did you not already go back on your word once yesterday? Doing it again will not make much difference." Yen Silu coughed in embarrassment. Qing Xiu smiled bitterly. "It was truly unintentional. I already have a wife, who has been with me through thick and thin. I cannot betray her loyalty. Elder Yen, I ask you to withdraw your promise." Su Xiaochun, deeply touched, hugged Qing Xiu's arm shyly, her heart sweet with affection. Qing Xiu patted her hand. "My dear, I am not the kind of man who starts something and then abandons it. Yes, I trust your character. However," Su Xiaochun hesitated and whispered, "I would not object to you taking a concubine, but the daughter of the Yen family is of noble status. How could she ever agree to be a concubine?" Yan Shirgu turned to his father. Father, Master Qing means no harm. I believe this was not intentional. Let us not insist. We are a respected scholarly family, how can our legitimate daughter become a concubine? Yan Silu, now furious, said, if she marries as a concubine, the Yan family will be mocked by all scholars. But if we withdraw the marriage, the people will say we are deceitful. What are we to do? Li Yuan was nearly bursting with laughter, slapping his thigh in glee. Then, a childish voice rang out, huh? Was not sister supposed to marry Master Qing? Why is there another one? It was Li Lianji, tilting her head and looking around curiously. Li Liju's beautiful face instantly flushed red. She hurriedly covered her sister's mouth and said with an awkward smile, my sister was joking, do not take her seriously. Yan Silu and Yan Shirgu stared in disbelief at the two princesses. What? A princess wants to marry into this family too? Then how is the Yan family still considered noble? Qing Xiu's mouth twitched uncontrollably. What the hell, another one? This was clearly turning into a harem drama. Pain shot through his arm. Su Xiaochun was silently applying pressure. She had no idea that her husband had gone off to a poetry gathering and managed to attract two noble young ladies. The issue of the Yan family's daughter was truly a conundrum. If he married her, it would have to be as a concubine, which the Yan family would never accept. If he declined, the daughter would be labeled as rejected, and her reputation ruined. Yan Shirgu said grimly, Father, you sure would never agree to be a concubine. Even if she were willing, I would not permit it. So, our family will have to bear the reputation of breaking our word. If we publicly announce that Master Qing already has a wife, then Yushur will be seen as a woman who was rejected. How can she bear that burden? Qing Xiu nodded repeatedly. Yes, Master Yan is right. Perhaps it is best to leave things as they are. Time will smooth everything out. Yan Silu and Yan Shirgu's eyes lit up. Yes, time will resolve this. After a few months, this whole storm will pass, and the impact will fade. And so, Yan Silu reluctantly agreed to this plan. During the banquet, Erguzi entered the courtyard and said, Lord Baron, someone named Do Gue is outside requesting to see you. Upon hearing this, Li Yuan furrowed his brow and muttered, Why has he come? Oh? Qing Xiu raised an eyebrow slightly, a smile playing at the corner of his lips. The illustrious Duke of Zan has come calling in person. From his divine vantage point, Qing Xiu observed Li Yuan's expression, noting its peculiarity. Qing Xiu's sensory awareness, his anime-like spiritual perception, now covered a radius of over 30 meters. His senses had become keener, and his physical abilities had grown absurdly potent. Even his memory had intensified to a bizarre degree. He could suddenly recall books he had read before his transmigration, even early childhood memories that had long faded, clear as day. These bodily mutations, the result of crossing the wormhole, were undeniably outrageous. This time, Li Yuan did not rush out. Instead, he rose and said, I am tired. I shall return home to rest. Li Zhu, Chengel, Qingke, let us go home and not disturb young Qing's reception of his guest. Grandfather, I have not had enough to eat yet. Me neither, I am still hungry. Li Tai and Li Lianji both protested. Li Lizhu, ever intelligent, stood up and pulled the two along, saying, Let us return to grandfather's home for now. Once Master Qing has finished entertaining his guest, we can return for more. The two youngsters were reluctantly led away. After they left, Li Yuan said to the servant Feng Fei, Once Do Gue leaves his house, have him come find me at home. Yes, master. Feng Fei quietly hid behind one of the buildings. Soon, Do Gue entered Qing Xiu's residence, his expression grim and dark. Qing Xiu sat at the table facing the door and said calmly, The Duke of Zan visits so suddenly. To what do I owe the pleasure? Do Gue stepped forward a few paces, scrutinizing Qing Xiu with a cold gaze. Such ruthless means. One letter with just a few words, and not only have I lost my title and position, but my son has been exiled to Lingnan. Qing Xiu was inwardly shocked. He had not expected a duke to be stripped of his title so easily. He had only assumed Li Er would exile Do Fengjie and assign Do Gue a charge of dereliction, removing him from the clan affairs office. But he had not anticipated that Li Er would be so merciless. Do Gue seethed with resentment. Qing Xiu, we have no grievances. Why have you acted so harshly toward the Do family? No grievances? Qing Xiu sneered. From the moment you bought the general's residence for 30,000 taels of silver and then discovered it had been gifted to me, in your hearts, I became a marked target. Rather than letting you manipulate things behind the scenes, better to eliminate the threat altogether. Since enmity was inevitable, it would come down to whose hand was more decisive. Su Xiaochun, sitting beside him, listened in horror, clutching Qing Xiu's hand tightly. She had known what had happened that day, but she never imagined her husband would act so directly, causing a duke to lose title and post. This was an all-out vendetta. Qing Xiu patted the back of her soft hand reassuringly. Do Gui's face twitched, but he did not deny it. Instead, he nodded and said, "You are right. After that day, I did intend not to let you off, though not to the point of taking your life. But your response was excessive." Qing Xiu retorted coldly, "How could I know whether you intended to kill me or merely teach me a lesson? If you had struck me, I would have retaliated to the bitter end. We would have become mortal enemies all the same." Do Gui was silent for a moment, then nodded. "In that case, there is nothing more to say." Heh. Forcing a smile, he said, "A blind baron dares oppose my Do family? If you act without mercy, do not blame me for being unjust. The Do family will see this through to the end." With a cold snort, Do Gui turned and left, flinging his sleeve. Yan Silu had listened in utter confusion. Yan Shirgu stared at Qing Xiu with awe. He rose and bowed. "Thank you, Master Qing, for the banquet. Should you come to Chang'an in the future, you must visit the Yan residence. We will welcome you with open doors. We will take our leave now." Yan Silu, sensing his son had more to say, also rose. "Young friend, do not hesitate to visit our home as your own. I shall drink with you again then." Qing Xiu stood and said, "Elder Yan, I cannot see. Let my wife see you out on my behalf." "No need, no need. We will see ourselves out." The father and son declined and quickly departed. Once aboard their carriage, Yan Silu asked, "Shirgu, you have something to say?" Yan Shirgu nodded. "Father, during court today, the Chancellor Fang Xianling accused Do Gui and his son. In the middle of the dispute, Prince Wei handed the emperor a letter from Master Qing. The emperor flew into a rage, ordered an investigation into the clan affairs office, and the outcome was clear. Not only was Do Gui removed from his post as chief of the clan office, his son was exiled to Lingnan, all due to Master Qing's letter. Without ever leaving home, he was able to sway court affairs. That is truly terrifying." Yan Silu drew a sharp breath. Then he shook his head. "Good thing he did not insist on marrying our Yushir as a concubine. Had we tied the Yan family to such a dangerous man, and something went wrong later, we would all be dragged down with him." "Indeed," said Yan Shirgu. "We may maintain a good relationship, but we must not form marital ties." The carriage rumbled away. At that moment, Do Gui arrived at Li Yuan's residence. Seeing Li Yuan, Do Gui's eyes turned red as tears welled up. He cried out emotionally, "Elder brother, elder brother." Li Yuan, puzzled, invited him to sit and asked with a frown, "Dalong, have you encountered trouble? And why did you visit young Qing?" Do Gui recounted everything in detail. Li Yuan's expression grew increasingly complex. After a long pause, Li Yuan said, "Dalong, it is best to let this go. I am an old man with no power left. I cannot help you. Also, Master Qing is a friend of mine. I do not want to see this feud between you worsen into mutual destruction." Do Gui replied with hatred, "Elder brother, it was not I who provoked him. He came after me first. If my elder sister were still alive, she would never have allowed the Do family to be humiliated like this. Your second son is far too ruthless." Li Yuan smiled bitterly. "Dalong, each emperor brings his own ministers. The Do family holds many powerful positions. If Shimen wants to consolidate power, it was only a matter of time before he moved against you. Better to withdraw now and protect yourself." Do Gui looked heartbroken. "So elder brother refuses to help me?" Li Yuan turned his face away, unable to meet his eyes. "It is not that I will not help, it is that I am powerless to do so." That was the truth. He was a figurehead now. Even if he wanted to help, he had no means to. "Dalong," Li Yuan continued, "if I had power, I would not have ended up like this. Take my advice, gather your belongings and enjoy your later years quietly. Do not stir up any more trouble. As long as I live, I can still protect the Do family somewhat. But when I am gone, second son's blade will show no mercy, just like at Xuanwu Gate." As he spoke, Li Yuan's face was filled with dread, as if he could still see that blood-drenched figure of Yu Qigong standing before him, brandishing a large blade, snarling, "Will His Majesty abdicate or not? Will he abdicate or not?" Had he hesitated for even a moment, Yu Qigong would have cleaved him in two without a second thought, risking the execution of his entire family. At the mention of Xuanwu Gate, Do Gui too trembled in fear. The mention of Xuanwu Gate cast an oppressive gloom over the atmosphere. Li Yuan suddenly broke into a carefree smile, waving his hand as he said, "Enough. Since the Tang Empire passed into Shimen's hands, I have witnessed his genuine determination to bring prosperity to the people. Dear brother," Li Yuan said, his expression complex, "our friendship is deep and long-standing, but let us speak frankly. I belong to the imperial clan. No matter how close our relationship may be, the Dou family is still considered the emperor's in-laws. When I was on the throne, I could tolerate you meddling in political affairs. But now that Shimon is in power, he is a ruler who values talent, knows how to appoint the capable, and yearns for virtuous officials. A gifted man like Qing is exactly the sort he longs to promote. If someone tries to eliminate him, Shimon will not turn a blind eye. I will give you this one piece of sincere advice: he is someone's second son is eager to employ, and he is also a friend whom I hold in great esteem. If you insist on removing him, consider the consequences for yourself. Dou Gui's face was filled with despair. But it was not the truth of Li Yuan's words that brought him to despair, it was Li Yuan's attitude. Li Yuan's stance left him, the brother-in-law, deeply disappointed. Yet Li Yuan was no child. For the sake of his family's imperial legacy, there were sacrifices that had to be made. Private emotions and the fate of the empire, anyone could see which was more important. Dou Gui rose, bitter and resentful, and said with cupped fists, "Elder brother, I understand. I will not trouble you further. But I cannot swallow this humiliation. That blind man, I will not let him go." Having spoken, he left without looking back. Li Yuan hesitated, raised his hand as if to speak, but in the end, he sighed and let it drop helplessly. After Dou Gui left, Li Tai walked out of the room, troubled. "Grandfather, uncle is trying to bully Master Qing. Can you help him? Please do not let uncle harm him." Li Yuan gave a wry smile, patting Li Tai on the head. "Qing Ke, even you do not wish to see your uncle bully Master Qing?" Li Tai replied earnestly, "Master Qing is my teacher. The gratitude owed to one's teacher is like a second birth. As the ancients said, a teacher for a day, a father for life. As a student, I cannot sit by while my teacher is mistreated." Li Yuan sighed. "Good child. What I just said to your uncle, that was already me helping your Master Qing." At that moment, Li Lizhu stood by, looking as though she wanted to speak but held back. Li Yuan turned to her with a kindly smile. "Lizhu, you have something to say as well?" "Yes, but not about uncle." "Oh?" Li Yuan's interest was piqued. Li Lizhu said softly, "Grandfather, with Master Qing's intelligence and insight, it is impossible he has not already figured out your true identity." Li Yuan squinted and smiled. "With my decades of cunning, I can also see that young Qing has long seen through the identities of me and the rest of you." Li Lizhu was astonished. "Then why pretend otherwise?" Li Yuan shook his head. "It is not that we are pretending, it is that we must not break the illusion. Once our identities are exposed, our relationship with him will become strained. He will grow overly cautious. Keeping our identities unspoken is the best outcome. We can shamelessly visit his home to scrounge meals, and he feels no pressure joking with us. Beneath the weight of imperial power, such ease is rare. Do you not agree?" Li Lizhu considered, then smiled serenely. "Grandfather is absolutely right. So, you are the one who understands best of all. Let us go." "Where to, grandfather?" Li Yuan grunted, "We have not finished our meal, nor have I had my fill of wine. Of course, we are going back to continue eating, we must not let our 5 viscera starve." The group once again made their noisy return to Qing Xiu's house to gorge themselves merrily. Meanwhile, outside the scholarly gates of the Yan family, Yan Yushur had long been anxiously awaiting the returning carriage from beyond the city. As soon as it arrived, she rushed to help Yan Silu down. The doorman and the coachman sensibly drove the carriage into the side courtyard. "Grandfather, was the visit fruitful?" Yan Yushur asked, visibly uneasy. Yan Silu sighed softly, "Let us talk inside." In the hall, Yan Shurgu sat silently to the side, making Yan Yushur, his daughter, even more nervous. Yan Silu said, "The visit went well. That Master Qing is generous, upright, and not the sort to flaunt his success." Yan Yushur asked in confusion, "If it went well, then why do both grandfather and father look so gloomy?" Yan Shurgu, his face bitter, recounted everything that had happened that day. A complex expression crossed Yan Yushur's face: relief, disappointment, frustration, and even a trace of anger. She was relieved she would not have to marry a blind man. Disappointed that the blind man already had a wife. Frustrated that she, a noble daughter from a family of Confucian scholars, had been, in essence, rejected. Though she refused to believe it, the facts were undeniable. Even among the most prestigious families of the aristocracy, many had come to the Yan family seeking her hand. Now that she had been turned down, she felt an intense sense of inadequacy. As for her anger, that was the simplest part, a cascading reaction of all those negative emotions. A lofty lady of high birth, offered to him, and he refused? How arrogant must he be? The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. Her eyes welled with tears. Yan Silu tried to comfort her. "Yushur, I know you are upset, but this may be a blessing in disguise. That Master Qing can bring down a duke with a single letter. He is a dangerous man. It is best our Yen family not form marital ties with such a person. If he gets into trouble, we would surely be implicated. Besides, even if the marriage went through, he already has a wife. You would be nothing more than a concubine. That is something neither I nor your father could accept. The current outcome is, in truth, the best resolution. Yes, Yen Yushir nodded, holding back her tears. But her pride had been shattered, and she now harbored a quiet resentment toward this Master Qing, whom she had never even met. That afternoon, Qing Xiu brought Guzi and a few others to his Chang'an residence. In the alley, he called Old Ma and Old Dao inside. "Master, what are your instructions?" asked Old Dao, clasping his fists. Qing Xiu lowered his voice. "I want you two to find a few trustworthy men to help produce colored glass. Honestly, there are few people I truly trust, just my wife, Yunyang, village Headley, and you two. This is a serious matter. If word gets out, colored glass will become cheap and ubiquitous. When that happens, it will be hard for us to swindle money from those blood-sucking merchants who prey on the poor." This last line was, of course, aimed at two men who harbored a deep hatred for the rich. Over time, Qing Xiu had come to know Old Ma and Old Dao's characters. They both detested wealthy merchants. Old Ma's eyes lit up. He rubbed his hands together and laughed. "Master, you have found the right men. Cheating those who exploit the poor, I have no qualms about that. The more we can trick them, the better." "Heh," Old Dao chuckled, "I feel the same." Qing Xiu was momentarily stunned. Old Dao's tone felt oddly familiar, as if from a TV drama. Qing Xiu pulled out 2 keys and placed them on the table. "These are for the treasury in the backyard. All profits from the colored glass will go there. You two can take what you need, it is my token of trust." Old Ma's face suddenly flushed red. He glared and said, "Master, what do you mean by this? Do you think Old Dao and I are only doing this for the money?" Old Dao, expressionless, picked up the keys and stuffed them back into Qing Xiu's hands. He sighed, "Master, we are men of a certain age. We may not be wise or eloquent, but we are not fools either. We know you are testing us. Forgive my bluntness for saying it outright, but are we really doing this for a few coins? These keys, keep them. Do not insult us like that. At our age, what use do we have for so much money? We are content with a warm meal and a few sips of wine each day." Exposed, Qing Xiu felt a bit embarrassed. Still, he was thick-skinned and quickly recovered. He laughed loudly. "Uncle Dao, you are truly forthright. In that case, your wages will be increased." Old Dao suddenly looked bashful. Rubbing his hands awkwardly, he stammered, "Well, I do not care whether we get a raise or not. 3 or 4 taels of silver a month is enough. But I have passed your house several times and caught the scent of delicious wine. I imagine it must be your private stock. If I could have a few sips each month." Old Ma's eyes also lit up. Imitating Old Dao, he said sheepishly, "Me too. I have no other hobbies. I just like sharing a drink with Old Dao now and then. The aroma from your house, why, it can be smelled from miles away. It tortures us." "Heh." Qing Xiu chuckled. "You will have it. Not only will your monthly pay increase to 10 taels of silver, but you will each get a pound of aged liquor daily. But do not overdrink, it could affect your work." Old Ma and Old Dao were ecstatic. Qing Xiu had finally found the perfect way to win their loyalty, appealing directly to their tastes. Before returning to the village, Qing Xiu purchased over 100 pounds of liquor. That night, he distilled several dozen pounds of white liquor. Its alcohol content was not high, about 40%, but for men like Old Ma and Old Dao, it was top-quality strong liquor. As for himself, he used the 3-legged brew given by Li Yuan to distill a stronger liquor, around 70%. Early in the morning, Li Tai arrived at Qing Xiu's residence. What surprised Qing Xiu was that Li Tai's intelligence was far beyond what he had previously imagined. After just 1 day of study, he had already grasped the fundamental essence of division. Not only did he come over early to scrounge a breakfast, but he also relentlessly pestered Qing Xiu, begging him to teach more useful knowledge. Since all the tea business at home had been handed over to Su Xiaochun for full management, Qing Xiu had become arguably the most idle person in the entire village. He taught Li Tai until mid-morning, when he suddenly detected 2 unfamiliar figures, a man and a woman, appearing within the range of his anime spiritual perception. The man looked to be around 30, sporting a neat beard and dressed in luxurious attire. He walked with the bearing of a dragon and tiger, his appearance dignified and refined, exuding a natural air of authority. He carried an aura of command and charisma. The woman appeared younger, around 26, exuding the grace and allure of a mature noblewoman. However, her presence far surpassed that of any so-called imperial lady. She wore a multicolored, intricately embroidered gown, with a jewel hairpin elegantly adorning her coiffed hair. Her manner was noble and composed, and her beauty was so exquisite she could be said to rival the legendary beauties of the realm. The two walked on either side of old Li, with Li Liju and Li Lizzie following behind. Further to the rear were several sharp-eyed bodyguards with agile movements and piercing gazes, warily scanning the surroundings. Qing Xiu raised an eyebrow, already guessing the identities of the man and woman. By this point, the group had already approached the courtyard. Oblivious to the visitors outside, Li Tai stared at Qing Xiu with eager eyes and asked, "Master, could you teach me the knowledge you spoke of last time, the kind that can benefit the common people?" He looked at Qing Xiu with expectation, adding, "You said you wanted the people to have enough to eat, to travel with ease, to have money to seek medical treatment, and for every child to be able to read and write, those grand ambitions." The people at the gate paused, not advancing. Li Er turned and made a gesture for silence. Everyone looked curious but said nothing. Even Li Yuan, though he seemed ready to speak, held his tongue and simply stood silently with hands behind his back. Qing Xiu curled his lips. Grown adults eavesdropping? Let them be, he thought. What he was about to say was not some treasonous talk. "Master, will you teach me?" Li Tai asked again nervously. Qing Xiu chuckled, "I can teach you, but feeding the people, easing their travels, ensuring medical care, and educating every child is not something that can be accomplished in a day or two. It may take years of effort and dedication." Li Tai grew excited. "As long as you are willing to teach me, Master, no matter how hard the road, I will walk it to the end." Outside, both Li Er and Empress Zhangsun smiled with gratification. Qing Xiu nodded, "I believe you will persevere. However, these matters are still beyond your current level of study. If you truly wish to learn, I can teach you something that will allow every child in the realm to read and write. Would you like that?" "Yes, Master, I would." Li Tai nodded eagerly, his little face flushed with excitement. Outside the wall, Li Er's body shook, overcome with emotion. Empress Zhangsun, too, looked elated. They instinctively turned to look at Li Yuan, who was equally thrilled. There is a saying, "The dynasty may flow like water, but the clan is built of iron." This saying is not without cause. The reason the 5 surnames and 7 great clans had long dominated was because they monopolized the majority of the empire's educational resources. Most of the classical texts and teaching materials were hoarded by these scholarly noble families. For commoners, the path to education was extremely difficult. Even those with sincere ambition to serve the nation through learning would find an insurmountable barrier when facing the great clans. This was also why many of the most celebrated scholars of the era emerged from those very families. Even many officials in court had connections to these powerful clans. Some were even nurtured and supported by them for their intellectual talents. Why did Li Shimin always emphasize that he belonged to the Longxili clan? It was because his ancestry contained Hu, Nanhan, blood, and he was not accepted by the pure-blooded Longxili line. This had always been a heavy burden on Li Yuan's branch of the family. Seeking unity despite differences is often easy, but the pain of not being acknowledged or respected, this was a lingering sore spot for Li Er. Now, someone was saying they could ensure that every scholar in the land had access to books and education. How could Li Er not be stirred? "Please, Master, speak," Li Tai said, unable to hold back. Qing Xiu said, "Qing Ke, as everyone knows, the reason children of commoners lack books is twofold. First, the 5 surnames and 7 great clans monopolize many educational materials. Second, there are simply too few books in circulation, making it impossible for every person to own even a handful. So we must address the root causes. One solution is to seize the educational materials from those great clans and make them public, but that would be extremely difficult. The other is to increase the number of books. The court should compile basic educational materials and print them so that every Tang citizen can own a few books. Then this grand vision can be realized." Outside, both Li Yuan and Li Er, as well as Empress Zhangsun, looked visibly dimmed with disappointment. Of course, they were already aware of these problems. But solving them? That seemed like a fantasy. Just hearing these known truths echoed back to them stirred feelings of frustration and resignation. But what followed next nearly dropped everyone's jaws. Li Tai said with a troubled expression, "Master, I already understand what you said. Father and grandfather have also thought about these issues. But how do we resolve such a difficult problem?" Qing Xiu smiled. "It is simple. If there is no paper for printing books, then we make paper." Li Tai frowned. "Master, that is easier said than done. Making paper is very difficult. A few sheets of high-quality Xian paper can cost several strings of cash. And low-quality paper, once it absorbs graphite, will soak through several pages and cannot be used for writing, let alone printing. Even if we had enough Xian paper, the sheer quantity of educational materials would require enormous manpower and resources just to carve the printing blocks. Even after decades, it would still be impossible to spread them throughout the entire Tang Empire. By that time, the Tang dynasty might already be gone, and the project still unfinished. Outside, Li Er's face twitched, veins bulging on his forehead. Li Yuan also looked visibly dark-faced. Empress Zhangsun turned pale with fright, and even Li Liju's expression turned grim as she swallowed nervously. Such words, to those two men's ears, were dangerously close to treason. Thankfully, it was Li Tai who said them. If it had been someone else, Li Er might have rushed in to behead them on the spot. Qing Xiu laughed and said, "Come, tell me how books are currently printed in the Tang dynasty." Li Tai thought a moment. Each existing book must have every page carved into a separate woodblock. For one book, that means dozens or even hundreds of blocks. Creating just one complete set is already a massive undertaking. And there can be no mistakes. If an error is made, the entire block is ruined. Qing Xiu's mouth twitched. "Qing Ke, what if I told you that the solution lies in a strange and magical invention?" "Huh?" Li Tai looked at him, wide-eyed in disbelief. Qing Xiu explained, "Each carved woodblock only prints a single fixed content. But what if those characters could come to life?" "Come to life?" Li Tai tilted his head, completely puzzled. Qing Xiu sighed. "You are about to make your teacher cry. What I mean is, every character is carved onto a separate stamp. These can be arranged in a frame the size of a book page, placed however you like. No matter what text you need, you just find the right stamps, arrange them according to the content of the book, and begin printing." Li Tai's mouth fell open as he stared at Qing Xiu in astonishment. Outside, Li Er and the others also widened their eyes, their faces filled with disbelief. These words hit them like a thunderclap from a clear sky. It all suddenly made sense. Qing Xiu chuckled. "This is called movable type printing." And at that time, movable type printing was still over 300 years away from being invented. Movable type printing? Just hearing these words caused great excitement among those outside. Li Yuan was so thrilled he almost slapped his thigh, but remembering it would alert those inside, he reluctantly withdrew his hand. He looked at Li Shimin with pride and satisfaction, as if to say, "Foolish child, do you see this? This is the talent I discovered. Without me, where would you even find someone like this?" Inside the courtyard, Li Tai stood up, thrilled, and exclaimed, "Teacher, you are truly amazing. To have come up with such a method, if my father knew of this new way to print books, he would be so overjoyed he could not sleep." Outside, Li Shimin muttered to himself, "Silly boy, your father is already dreaming." Qing Xiu said, "Thus, the biggest difficulty in book printing has now been half solved. As for the production of Xian paper, that is even easier. By improving the current papermaking process and materials, large-scale paper production is entirely possible." "Teacher, how can the papermaking process be improved?" "Well, that I need to organize carefully. In a few days, I will provide you with a complete plan for large-scale papermaking." Li Tai suddenly bowed and said, with just a few words, "Teacher has given all the people of the world access to books. Please accept your disciple's deep bow. If I make achievements in printing in the future, I shall never bring dishonor to your name." Qing Xiu nodded. "Enough, I still have a method to teach you that allows people to learn characters quickly. Pay close attention." Li Tai immediately sat up straight. Qing Xiu laid a sheet of Xian paper on the table, covered with various phonetic spellings and symbols. Li Tai asked in confusion, "Teacher, what is written here? Why does it look like ghostly scribbles?" "Ghostly scribbles?" Qing Xiu flicked him on the forehead and scolded, "This is called Hanyu Pinyin. Come, I will teach you. This is A, this is B, this is C." After quite some time, Li Tai finally began to grasp the basics of Pinyin. "Teacher, this is marvelous." Li Tai was so excited he jumped to his feet, hands waving. "This Hanyu Pinyin is so ingenious, it helps people learn to read and write far more easily than the 1,000-character classic." Qing Xiu stood up. "You have now learned the basics of Hanyu Pinyin. Spend some time studying it. Come to me with questions only when needed. If you take in too much at once, you will digest none of it. That is all for today." Li Tai stood and gave a formal bow. "Thank you, teacher, for your guidance." He put away the pinyin sheet but clearly had no intention of leaving. Mealtime freeloading had become his habit. At that moment, hearty laughter came from outside. "Ha ha ha. Qing boy, the old man is here to freeload again, and I brought the whole family this time." With those words, Li Yuan swaggered into the courtyard like he owned the place. Li Tai, seeing the newcomers, hurried to greet them. "Greetings, grandfather, father, mother, you all came?" He was delighted. Qingxiu, leaning on his blind staff, smiled and said, "Old Li, when have you ever come to my house to freeload without bringing the whole family?" Li Yuan patted Qingxiu on the shoulder and chuckled. "This time is different. Before, it was just the grandchildren. Today I brought my son and daughter-in-law, 2 extra mouths. You will not mind, will you?" Qingxiu tapped his cane, displeased. "I am not a wealthy man. If you keep bringing the whole family, you will eat me out of house and home." Li Yuan glanced knowingly at Li Shimin. Li Shimin signaled his guards, then reached out his hand. In a moment, a large gold ingot was placed in it. Li Yuan handed it to Qingxiu with a grin. "Here, gold. I am not eating for free." Qingxiu did not refuse and pocketed the 5-tael gold bar without hesitation. He had never been one for polite refusals with Li Yuan. Li Shimin carefully examined Qingxiu, nodding repeatedly. Then he stepped forward and said with a smile, "I often hear my father speak of Master Qing's brilliance. Meeting you in person today, I see that your reputation is well deserved." "And who might you be?" Qingxiu asked, though he already knew. Li Yuan chuckled. "This is my son." Li Shimin's face twitched. Forcing a smile, he said, "I am Qingxiu's father. It is an honor to meet you, Master Qing. Thank you for instructing my son." To suddenly humble himself and say, "I am," it was awkward for him. Empress Zhangsun was far more gracious. She stepped forward gracefully and said softly, "I am Qingxiu's mother. Thank you, Master, for imparting your knowledge to my son." Li Tai said excitedly, "Father, Mother, just now Master Qing taught me something extraordinary, movable type printing." "Movable type printing?" Li Shimin feigned surprise. "How does that work?" Li Tai explained it, and Li Shimin clasped his hands in admiration. "Master Qing is indeed a great talent. I am deeply impressed." This family was putting on quite the performance, wasting their talent not acting was a shame. Qingxiu waved his hand and smiled. "It is merely a mechanical skill. But if it can benefit the people, it has value. Does this brother Li also serve in the court?" Li Shimin said, "I am unworthy but serve in the Ministry of Revenue. My father spoke of your insights into public welfare, so I came to seek your guidance. Forgive me for arriving uninvited." "Not at all." After a bit of polite exchange, Qingxiu said, "Since we have honored guests, I must go prepare the meal. Please excuse me." Li Shimin said with surprise, "A gentleman stays out of the kitchen, Master Qing cooks himself?" Before Qingxiu could reply, Li Yuan laughed and said, "Shimin, this boy is not like others. He has always loved tinkering with fine food. When guests come, he insists on cooking personally. Do not underestimate him for being blind. Though he cannot see, when it comes to food, he is unmatched in all of Tang. You are in for a treat today." Empress Zhangsun added, "Then we must trouble you, Master Qing." Just then, Su Xiaochun's voice came from outside. "Oh? Husband, we have guests?" Qingxiu introduced them. "Wife, let me present, this is Brother Li and his lady, they are old Li's son and daughter-in-law. Please make them some tea. Yunyang, help me prepare the food." "Yes, coming." Yunyang scurried into the kitchen. As she passed, Empress Zhangsuan's gaze lingered on the shy young woman's ample bosom, which bounced slightly as she moved. Her eyes widened with disbelief. She glanced down at her own chest, and a wave of insecurity surged through her. Even she, worldly and experienced, could not help but show a hint of envy. While food was being prepared, Su Xiaochun chatted with Empress Zhangsun. "Madam, we are new to this lovely place. It seems very different from others. We came in a hurry and have not looked around. Might you show us around the village?" "Of course. Let us go." Su Xiaochun cheerfully led them out. Li Shimin and his wife looked around like Columbus discovering a new continent. "Why is this house so large?" asked Empress Zhangsun. "Oh, that is our tea workshop," replied Su Xiaochun. "And those other large buildings?" asked Li Shimin. "Are they also tea workshops?" Su Xiaochun shook her head. "My husband had those built. I am not sure what for, they are still empty." Li Shimin was amazed. "This place was desolate when I came. In less than half a year, it has become so prosperous. It rivals the Western market." Su Xiaochun smiled with pride. "That is thanks to my husband. And it has not even been half a year, less than 3 months, and he has brought Sanha village to where it is now." Li Shimin sincerely said, "Master Qing is truly extraordinary." Indeed. The title of Master suits him perfectly. Hearing the praise from old Li's son and daughter-in-law, Su Xiaochun could not be happier. Back in the courtyard, the group sat around a table, drinking tea while examining the layout of the courtyard. Empress Zhangsun, curious like a child, kept pulling Su Xiaochun aside to ask questions about everything. "Madam Xiaochun, what is planted in that vegetable garden?" she asked, looking at the half-acre plot of young crops. Su Xiaochun's expression immediately turned wary, and her tone grew more serious. Madam Li, those are my husband's treasured plants. Please forgive me, but I cannot tell you. If you wish to know, you may ask my husband directly. Empress Zhangsun could not help showing a slightly awkward expression. In all her years, this was the first time she had been met with such a refusal. Li Yuan explained, although I do not know what Qing boy planted, he did mention once that these seeds represent the future of the Tang dynasty. They are grains that determine whether the common people can have enough to eat. Li Shimin inhaled sharply, and his gaze toward the patch of seedlings became increasingly fervent. Given Qingxiu's previous displays of real talent and knowledge, the words from Li Yuan left both Li Shimin and his wife fully convinced. Even though they did not know what those crops were, they now viewed them with great respect. Qingxiu and Yunyang had been busy in the kitchen for more than half an hour. It was unclear whether they were cooking or doing something else. Either way, when Yunyang came out to serve the dishes, her cheeks were flushed red. After placing the food on the table, she even discreetly wiped the corner of her mouth, her gaze shy and evasive. Su Xiaochun instantly saw through what had happened and glared angrily, fuming inside. They could not even stay proper while cooking. If an outsider had walked into the kitchen at that moment, it would have been a lifelong disgrace. Li Shimin and Empress Zhangsun were mesmerized by the aroma, their eyes fixed on the 8 dishes and 2 large soup bowls on the table. Their throats began to move involuntarily. This was a normal physiological response. When a hungry person smells an irresistible fragrance, saliva production is reflexive. Li Shimin turned to Li Yuan in shock. Father, can food really be presented on a dining table in such a form? Having eaten stewed meals for nearly 30 years, Li Shimin had never seen such properly stir-fried dishes. With it being late spring, the seasonal ingredients made the food look colorful, aromatic, and highly appetizing. Li Yuan sighed, amazing, is it not? I was just as astonished the first time I saw this kind of dish. I have lived my whole life eating stews and never thought I would taste such delicacies in my old age. Shimin, this is Qing boy's unique cooking technique, called stir-frying. Just then, Qingxiu came out carrying a wine jar. Li Yuan chuckled and said, Come, Qing boy, tell my Shimin and daughter-in-law what all these stir-fried dishes are. Qingxiu casually took a seat at the host seat. After all, this was his home, and he was not about to stand on ceremony. Without opening the wine jar just yet, Qingxiu began introducing the dishes on the table. This is stir-fried cucumber and almond with Chinese yam. Cucumber is sometimes referred to as hu gua, and eggplant as kunlun gua. To differentiate the two, cucumbers were called hu gua and eggplants zi gua during the Tang dynasty. The pale yellow almonds, vibrant green cucumbers, and milky white Chinese yam made the dish look not only delicious but visually appealing. This is stewed pig's trotters with soybeans. It was currently early soybean harvest season. Tender soybeans stewed with pig's trotters produced a soft, savory dish that went perfectly with rice. In the Tang era, there were few crops, but some, like soybeans, could be harvested 2 or 3 times a year. Pig's trotters? Empress Zhangsun covered her mouth in disbelief. You can actually eat pig's trotters? In this era, countless delicious parts of animals like pig's trotters were wasted. Commoners did not waste them, but nobility and royalty considered such scraps inedible. Li Yuan laughed heartily. You do not know, but pig's trotters are the perfect side dish for wine. And let me tell you, Qing boy's pig ears and pig skin jelly are even more incredible. Here, this is the pig skin jelly, Li Yuan said, pointing to a dish on the table. Qingxiu added, this is garlic pig skin jelly, a cold appetizer that whets the appetite. This one is Chinese tune with scrambled eggs. Though Chinese tune harvested in late April is a bit mature, it still retains strong flavor after blanching. I know Chinese tune, Li Shimin nodded. But what are these little coiled things the size of a pinky? Li Yuan was curious too. Qing boy, how come you have never made this for me? Su Xiaochun and Yunyang exchanged glances, both looking somewhat disgusted at the dish. Suddenly, Empress Zhangsuan's face turned pale. She covered her mouth and said in a trembling voice, bugs, insects? Are those, silkworm pupae? Silkworm pupae? Li Shimin twitched. You can eat those? Qingxiu smiled. Of course they are edible, and they are more nutritious than all the other vegetables combined. Eating more of these can even cure night blindness. Silkworm pupae, like cicada shells, are extremely high in protein. With the village thriving, some women had started raising silkworms in their spare time, so Qingxiu got his hands on some pupae to eat. Li Lizhu did not dare look at them, her face pale. But Li Lizzie was quick and bold, she popped one into her mouth and her eyes lit up. Mother, silkworm pupae are so tasty. She grabbed another one right after. Qingxiu smirked. He had a thought, if the locust plague came next year, Li Lizzie would make an excellent marketing ambassador. Empress Zhangsun slapped her daughter's hand and scolded, Lizzie, who taught you to grab food with your hands? Have you forgotten the manners your mother taught you? And do you think this is your own home, to do as you please? Whether it hurt or her mother was simply too harsh, Lizzie's eyes reddened and tears began to fall. Qingxiu picked up the plate of silkworm pupae, patted her head, and smiled. Here, hold the plate and eat. If you like it, eat more. Lizzie stared at the plate, then looked timidly at her mother. Qingxiu chuckled. Brotherly, madam, it is not proper to scold children before meals. Though young, children need proper moral guidance, but they also deserve dignity in public. The same goes for daughters. Li Shimon's eyes lit up. He nodded. What wise words, do not scold before meals, grant dignity in public. Master Qing, are there more such teachings? Do not scold before meals, do not lecture the wife before bed, master and disciple should not sit opposite at the table, uncles and nephews should not drink together. Li Shimon nodded repeatedly. Master Qing, you have spoken profound wisdom. Li is humbled. Lizzie, Master Qing gave it to you. Take it and eat. Lizzie obediently held the plate and said sweetly, Thank you, Master Qing. She returned it to her place at the table and said softly, The elders have not eaten yet. As a junior, I must wait until grandfather, father, and mother have eaten. Mother, I was wrong. Her earnest apology brought smiles to everyone's faces. Empress Zhangsun suddenly asked, Master Qing, just now you mentioned nutrition. What is nutrition? And can this really cure night blindness? Qingxiu explained, nutrition refers to the beneficial substances in food that are good for the body. Silkworm pupae contain more nutrients than eggs. Night blindness is caused by malnutrition. Eating more protein-rich food can cure it. Li Yuan clicked his tongue in amazement. TSK, Qing boy, you even know medicine? Is there anything in this world that you do not know? Qingxiu sighed. I do not understand medicine deeply. I have only studied a little of each of the 100 schools of thought. I know a little about everything, but mastering one fully is not realistic. Qingxiu then introduced the rest of the dishes. 8 dishes, 2 soups. They were soy-braised pig's trotters, cucumber and Chinese yam, garlic pig skin jelly, deep-fried silkworm pupae, stir-fried celery with pork, sweet and sour spare ribs, scallion sea cucumber, cold octopus salad, stewed hen with mountain mushrooms, and clear broth yellow croaker. When Qingxiu finally opened the wine jar, Li Yuan and Li Shimon's eyes lit up. They stared at it without blinking, their Adam's apples twitching uncontrollably. The fragrance, it was heavenly. Li Er suppressed the urge to snatch the wine jar and gulp it down, swallowing hard. Stretching his neck, he asked sincerely, Brother Qing, not only does the food from your household smell appetizing, even the aroma of your wine is quite remarkable. Li Yuan sniffed hard through his nose and asked with some jealousy, I have visited your home many times and never seen you bring out such fine wine. But now that my worthless son is here, you suddenly bring it out? So fragrant, incredibly fragrant. Li Yuan stood up, craned his neck to look inside, and exclaimed, I have tasted countless fine wines in my life, but never have I smelled one so rich and intoxicating. Qing boy, what is this wine called? Qingxiu smiled and answered, Xingji Village. That name was not conjured out of thin air, it had been carefully chosen to eventually help him sell the wine for profit. Xingji Village? Li Er committed the name to memory and planned to send someone to find the village later. Where is this Xingji Village? Li Yuan asked. Qingxiu did not know either. But that did not stop him from spinning a tale. With a calm and composed demeanor, he said, I do not know the exact location either. I only remember that it was during the Qingming festival, and there was a light drizzle. I accidentally stumbled into a village surrounded by apricot trees in full bloom. Hungry and weary, I asked a young shepherd boy if there was an inn nearby. He pointed to a village nestled in the apricot grove. I drank this wine there, found it delightful, and brought back a jar. After I lost my sight, I tried to find that place again, but never could. Peach Blossom Spring? Li Yuan stared wide-eyed, dumbfounded. Li Er asked curiously, could it be that Brother Qing accidentally entered the Peach Blossom Spring? I am not certain myself, Qingxiu shook his head. Afterward, using this wine as inspiration, I wrote a poem to commemorate that fateful day. Oh? I would like to hear it in detail, Li Yuan and his son said in unison. They were like curious children enchanted by a tale. Qingxiu shamelessly recited. During Qingming, the rain falls and drizzles. On the road, travelers' souls are broken. I asked where to find a tavern. The shepherd boy pointed far to Xingji Village. What a great poem, truly marvelous. While praising, Li Er snatched the wine jar, poured himself a cup without waiting for anyone, and raised it, saying, such a fine poem must be accompanied by a drink. Come, Brother Qing, I toast you. Yunyang, ever considerate, used a bamboo pitcher to pour wine for both Li Yuan and Qing Xiu, handing the cup to Qing Xiu. Being blind had its perks, people tended to wait on you constantly. Come, bottoms up. Li Er was bold and downed the whole cup in one gulp. As expected, his face immediately turned the color of pig liver. Seeing this, Li Yuan only took a small sip and then smacked his lips in surprise. "Tsk, this wine, so strong, so fierce, excellent wine." Li Er was nearly choked to death by that gulp, his eyes bulging and full of tears. Cough. He pounded his chest for a good half a cup of tea's time before catching his breath. Wiping his tears, he said, "This wine is too strong. How could such a potent liquor exist in this world? One mouthful nearly cost me half my life." Qing Xiu chuckled, "Brother Li, who told you to drink so greedily? Look at old Li there, he's much smarter than you." Li Yuan laughed heartily, "Fragrant, mellow, strong, and clear, this wine has all four virtues. Even heavenly nectar cannot surpass it." The two families then began a feast that lasted a full hour. With the earlier lesson in mind, Li Yuan sipped slowly, savoring each mouthful of the strong liquor. Li Ji had grown wiser as well, mimicking his father's way of drinking, slow and measured. After taking a sip, Li Ji said, "Brother Qing, I have a few questions I would like to ask you." "Please do." Li Ji paused to gather his thoughts, then said, "With the new emperor's ascension and the renaming of the era to Zhenguan, the first policy he issued was to promote population growth. On one hand, it was to nurture the people, and on the other, to increase our Tang population. The court regularly sends marriage convoys to deliver eligible brides to villages. After receiving the marriage documents and marrying them, one can also collect 300 copper coins from the government. Yet, knowing there is money to be had, why do so many still refuse to take concubines?" Qing Xiu thought for a moment and replied, "A wife is chosen for virtue, a concubine for beauty, but one must be able to support them. Though 300 copper coins is not a small sum, once a woman is brought into the household as a concubine, she adds another mouth to the household taxes, both poll and grain. A wise man would naturally consider this. To solve the problem at its root, tax reduction is essential. It not only helps the people become wealthier more quickly, but also accelerates population growth for the Tang." Li Ji sighed, "Such a difficult task. The Tang has over 20 million households, many of which are solitary. The actual population barely reaches 60 million. The taxes collected must fund canals, build bridges, support soldiers, and provide disaster relief. Ultimately, the issue is always a lack of money. Though we say it comes from and goes to the people, taxation is unavoidable." Qing Xiu said, "That may be so, but when officials push the people too far, they will rebel. The people have suffered greatly from war. If you squeeze them further, how much oil can you wring from them? Brother Li, it is not the grain tax the people fear, but the poll tax. The more people in the family, the more tax they must pay. It has always been a crushing burden. To truly increase the population, abolishing the poll tax is essential. I do have a proposal, though I am unsure if I should speak of it." Li Ji urged, "Please do, Brother Qing." Qing Xiu said each word clearly and solemnly. The single whip law merged the poll tax into the land tax. Everyone looked confused, except for Su Xiaochun, who gazed at her husband with admiration. A man who spoke eloquently and was sought for counsel, he was undeniably attractive. In modern terms, Su Xiaochun was now a scholar fangirl. The single whip law, merging the poll tax into the land tax? What does it mean? Li Ji asked in confusion. Qing Xiu raised one finger. First, merge all miscellaneous taxes into one. The people pay only land tax. How much land, how much tax? If they have no money, they pay with grain. Second, abolish all corvée labor. The common folk already live in hardship. Working all year may not earn them much, yet they are still forcibly conscripted for unpaid labor under various pretexts. Though it has become the norm, to say they suffer without complaint is untrue. By abolishing corvée labor, we mean allowing people to pay part of their tax in lieu of forced labor." Li Ji looked troubled, but once a policy is issued, it is like an arrow released from a bow, it cannot be taken back. If this policy truly reduces taxes and they continue to decrease, how can we support the soldiers? How can we enrich the nation? Qing Xiu sneered, "Support soldiers? You said it as if it were so noble. Though the Tang clearly recognizes four classes, scholars, farmers, artisans, and merchants, in that order, how can a country become wealthy like this?" Li Ji stood up and solemnly bowed, "Please teach me, Brother Qing." Qing Xiu sipped his wine and said, "I strongly disagree with the ranking of the four classes. Farmers sustain the nation, artisans strengthen it, merchants enrich it. What can the scholars do for Tang? These so-called scholars are nothing more than officials and Confucians. Not all officials are bad, those with true ability are worth 100 useless ones. As for the Confucians, most are armchair theorists, good only at flowery talk. They cannot enrich the nation, let alone sustain or strengthen it. Of course, I am not dismissing all Confucians, some are indeed truly capable. Let us talk about merchants. The Tang guards a veritable mountain of gold and silver in its commerce sector, yet labels merchants as base. Do you know how much wealth merchants have? If we collected commercial taxes from just one region, it could rival national tax revenue. Encouraging commerce could open up international trade. Once the economy takes shape, commercial taxes would provide an endless stream of wealth to the national treasury. That is the first principle of national enrichment. These ideas, Li Ji had already considered, but had yet to implement. Li Er waited expectantly for Qing Xiu to continue speaking. Qing Xiu said, though merchants may be considered beneath notice, one must not underestimate the benefits of commerce. The people can sustain a nation, but commerce can enrich it. There is no need to elaborate further, you are an official of the Ministry of Revenue, you know this better than I. Industry strengthens the country. This refers not merely to artisans but includes every domain, building bridges and roads, urban development, infrastructure tools, and military equipment. None of these can function without craftsmanship. Just as he was speaking with fervor, someone walked into the courtyard. It was the blacksmith Wang Tiniu. Seeing the courtyard full of people dining, Wang Tiniu scratched his head and, embarrassed, bowed and retreated. Qing Xiu called out, "Tiniu, come in." Only then did Wang Tiniu turn and return, though he seemed hesitant to speak. Qing Xiu asked, "Brother Tiniu, did you come for something?" Wang Tiniu replied, "Master, the plough you requested has already been completed. Would you like me to have someone bring it over?" Qing Xiu was surprised. "Finished already? I thought it would take 5 days." It had only been 3 days, yet the plough was already done, remarkably fast. Tiniu scratched his head with a sheepish grin. "Knowing the plough was urgent for you, I worked through the night to make it." Li Er and his family were immediately intrigued by the word plough, their faces showing curiosity. Qing Xiu said, "All right then, have it brought over." "Got it." Wang Tiniu quickly left. Li Er asked, "Master Qing, what exactly is a plough?" Qing Xiu smiled mysteriously. "You will understand when you see it." Soon, a massive plough was carried in by 2 strong apprentices from the forge. "This is the plough?" Li Er's eyes widened. His entire family crowded around it. After studying it for a while, Zhang Sun Wugo exclaimed, "Master Qing, is this used for turning the soil?" Su Xiaochun covered her mouth and laughed. "Sister-in-law, what else could it be for? Of course a plough is for turning soil. What, do you think it turns walls?" Even an empress could not hide her blush, visibly embarrassed. Qing Xiu tapped his blind cane and walked over, striking the plough. The metallic sound was much crisper and brighter than that of other farming tools. Li Er inhaled sharply. "Good iron, good steel. The sound is pure, almost without impurities. Master Qing, where did you obtain such quality steel?" Before Qing Xiu could reply, Su Xiaochun proudly said, "This is just ordinary steel. But after my husband improved the forge, the impurities were refined out." A glint of sharpness appeared in Li Yuan's usually murky eyes. Li Er was so excited he could hardly speak coherently. This. Master Qing, you also know the craft of forging steel?" Qing Xiu knocked Su Xiaochun on the head. "Why do you go around blabbing everything?" Realizing she had spoken too freely, Su Xiaochun quickly tugged on Qing Xiu's sleeve and said pitifully, "Husband, I was wrong. I am just a woman, and hearing others praise my husband made me lose myself. I will not dare to do it again." All right, Qing Xiu said with a wry smile. "Besides, the method of refining hundredfold steel is not exactly a secret. Tiniu and his apprentices already know. A few more people knowing does not matter." "Hundredfold steel?" Li Yuan and Li Er became visibly excited, their breathing quickening. If anything could strengthen a country the most, it was surely weapons. The Tang sword was a legendary weapon throughout history, made from countless hammerings of hundredfold steel, far superior to the material used in this plough. Though Tang swords were also forged from hundredfold steel and the craftsmanship was exceptionally high, the forging process was extremely difficult. "Yes," Qing Xiu said nonchalantly. "It is indeed the method for hundredfold steel." "How much hundredfold steel can be produced in a day?" Li Er asked urgently. Qing Xiu thought for a moment and gave a conservative estimate. 5 people, 100 jin per day, should not be a problem. Heavens! Li Er looked skyward with a cry of anguish, his face a mixture of grief and indignation. The Ministry of Works has thousands of workers and can only produce a few thousand jin of hundredfold steel per year. Yet 5 of your men can produce 100 jin in a day. Master Qing, please do not deceive me. Li Er was clearly concerned. Qing Xiu replied with displeasure, "Why would I lie to you?" He knocked the plow on the ground. "This thing weighs over 100 jin. Tiniu and his 3 apprentices made it in 3 days. If it were just raw 100-fold steel with no shaping, 100 jin per day at minimum." Suddenly, Li Er gave Qing Xiu a deep bow, his expression sincere. "Master Qing, though Tang military arms are renowned worldwide, the manufacturing process is overly complex. The Ministry of Works barely produces over 1,000 Tang swords per year. These swords are given to elite cavalry only. Many soldiers still lack quality weapons. Their blades snap when clashing with the curved sabers of the Turks or the swords of Tibetans. They may be brave, but they cannot unleash even half their strength. The nation's strength lies in its military. Without sharp blades, how can one be mighty? To protect the homeland and defend the borders, what we lack most are weapons forged from 100-fold steel. But the Ministry of Works has no quick method, our border troops remain weak. If we had this rapid steel forging method, within 2 years, every Tang soldier could wield a fine weapon, holding the front lines without retreat, resisting foreign threats with unyielding power. I humbly beg Master Qing to teach me the method of forging 100-fold steel. I will petition the court, if I must, I will beg them to grant you a hereditary marquisate. Please, in the name of righteousness, pass on this method to strengthen our military." Li Er bent at a 90-degree angle, unwilling to rise. Qing Xiu was moved by his humility, a true emperor willing to honor the wise. Li Yuan joined in solemnly, clasping his hands, "Please, Master Qing, teach us the method to strengthen the military." Zhang Sun Wugo followed suit, "Please, Master Qing, bestow the method for forging 100-fold steel. If you act generously, your name shall be recorded in history and revered by future generations." The younger ones mimicked their elders. Even Su Xiaochun was stunned, tugging at Qing Xiu's robe so hard his pants were nearly pulled off. Yunyang seemed to be waiting for something. Qing Xiu helped Li Yuan up, then Li Er, and said, "You flatter me too much. The method of forging 100-fold steel has existed since ancient times. I merely improved it slightly. Please, there is no need for such ceremony, especially you, old Li. Why are you jumping in? I am already blind. If you bow to me, are you trying to cripple my legs too?" Li Yuan burst out laughing. Li Er asked excitedly, "Then you are willing to teach the method?" "I never intended to keep it secret, otherwise, I would not have taught it to the village blacksmiths. However," Qing Xiu continued, "what I taught Wang the blacksmith was only the method of high-temperature hammering. The real secret to quickly removing impurities from steel lies in borax. That I did not teach him. After all, Wang was not forging weapons, just iron tools. If Qing Xiu had not needed to forge a cane sword for himself, he would not have upgraded the forge in the first place." Li Er stifled his excitement, memorizing the use of borax, then visited Wang Tiniu's home to inspect the forge. Upon returning, he stared at the plow on the ground. "Master Qing, how exactly does this tool work?" Qing Xiu explained, "Farmers typically use hoes to till the soil, which only scrapes the surface. Seeds are then scattered. This leads to many problems and low survival rates. This plow can dig deeper, bringing moist soil to the top. If seeds are dropped into the furrow, even without irrigation, the survival rate can reach 70 to 80%. It also greatly reduces the time needed for tilling. With hoes, one person can till at most 1 mu a day. With this tool, several strong men can till dozens of mu daily. If pulled by oxen or horses, one operator can till dozens or even 100 mu a day." Hiss. Li Er sucked in a breath. "Are you serious?" "I am." Li Shimin was overjoyed. "With such a farming implement, not only can we quickly sow crops, but we can also reclaim wasteland. Bumper harvests will be inevitable. Master Qing, this tool is truly a divine implement for farming. Thank you for solving such a vital problem for our people. Please accept my bow." Qing Xiu dodged the bow and said, "I did not invent this. It was recorded in ancient texts. Its true name is plow sled, and it dates back to the Han Dynasty, documented in carved records. It should be listed in the Ministry of Works engineering manuals. I truly wonder, why is such a divine implement kept hidden and unused? What is the court thinking? A bunch of bloated incompetents." Li Yuan and Li Er twitched at the corner of their mouths, not out of offense at the insult, but because this tool had existed all along and no one had put it to use. Especially Li Er. Seeing his expression, Qing Xiu knew the Ministry of Works was about to be in trouble. Li Ji departed with his entire household, shamelessly taking with him the newly forged plow crafted by Qing Xiu. Qing Xiu simply went back to Wang Tiniu and had a new plow made. After all, Li Ji was the biggest bandit leader in the Tang dynasty. Qing Xiu dared not count on him to voluntarily return the plow. As soon as Li Ji returned to the palace, he had the Bureau of Agriculture test the plow's effectiveness. The results exceeded his expectations. 1 man and 1 ox, working for half an afternoon, managed to plow more than 20 mu of land, dozens of times faster than the rate commoners achieved using hoes. This delighted Li Ji immensely. He then personally searched through the Ministry of Works archives until sunset, finally discovering a record of the plow in the agricultural tools section. Back in the Lijing Hall, Li Ji's expression was grave. Bastards. He slammed the table in rage, shouting, Master Qing was right. This plow has existed since the Han Dynasty, and it is even recorded in the agricultural tools section of the Ministry of Works manual. Such a divine implement has been collecting dust instead of being used. What the hell have those drunken, gluttonous fools at the ministry been doing? Zhang Sun Wugo gently said from the side, Your Majesty, calm yourself. The ministry may have been negligent, but please do not anger yourself over it. Li Ji cursed, How can I not be angry? We have the plow, yet still force the people to use hoes. They work from sunrise to sunset and can barely plow 1 or 2 mu of land. But this plow can cultivate 100 mu in a day. No, I must go to the Ministry of Works. Li Ji stood up to leave. Zhang Sun Wugo quickly tried to stop him. Your Majesty, it is already late. The ministry closed long ago, no one will be there. Li Ji hesitated, then relented. Very well, I will go tomorrow. The next morning, there was no court session. At the crack of dawn, Li Ji went to the Ministry of Works and personally ordered the blacksmiths to improve the forges and build bellows. By mid-morning, a forge had already been modified. 3 blacksmiths began forging steel according to Qing Xiu's method. They worked until nightfall. The minister in charge of the forge, exhausted, nevertheless beamed with joy. Holding a newly forged steel plate, he said with excitement, Your Majesty, behold, refined steel. Li Ji stroked the black steel plate before him, which shimmered with a metallic luster, almost entirely free of impurities. Good steel, excellent steel, this is true refined steel, he murmured. The minister, moved to tears, said hoarsely, Your Majesty, this forging method is brilliant. The refined steel we forged today surpasses what previously took days to produce. Moreover, the 3 of us have already forged over 100 jin today. Li Ji exclaimed joyfully, with such an effective forging technique, the rise of Tang's military industry is just around the corner. Minister Wang, tomorrow, begin converting all forges in the ministry to this model. This method is strategic and must not be leaked. If it reaches foreign lands, it could be disastrous for Tang. Also, teach this method to the Armaments Bureau and have them forge battle swords day and night. Whatever funds they need, they may petition the treasury, there will be no limit. In addition, have the craftsmen of the ministry rush to manufacture more plows. Wheat will be harvested in half a month. After that, autumn crops must be planted. We must spread the plow across all counties in Guangzhou as quickly as possible. With that, Li Ji departed. His order to draw unlimited funds from the treasury thrilled the minister beyond words. Over 2 days, Qing Xiu organized the method of papermaking and handed it to Li Tai. Though papermaking could indeed bring great profit in this era, the process was complex, and profits would only come through mass production. Being inherently lazy, Qing Xiu preferred simpler paths to wealth. There was no need to invest his energy in papermaking. After sending off Li Tai, Qing Xiu took Old Ma, Old Dao, and a few trusted household guards to his residence in Chang'an to begin experimenting with glassmaking. Upon receiving the papermaking method, Li Tai immediately rushed to the palace. Thanks to daily running, he had shed much of his body fat. His once plump face now looked striking and spirited. Aside from slightly tanned skin, he now resembled a dashing young heir from a wealthy family. Lijing Hall. Seeing Li Tai enter, Li Er beckoned with a smile. Qing Ke, why are you not studying with Master Qing at the estate? What brings you to the palace? Ever since witnessing how Qing Xiu taught Li Tai, Li Er had wanted him to stay at the estate and study diligently. Father. Li Tai presented a piece of xian paper with a grin. These are the detailed steps of the papermaking method compiled by Master. I came to deliver them immediately. Li Er eagerly opened the document and read it carefully. He marveled aloud, even bamboo can be used to make paper? And grain stalks too. Wang De immediately summoned the 3 departments and all civil and military officials for court tomorrow. The next morning at court, civil and military officials stood in 2 rows. At the center of the Hall of Supreme Harmony was an object covered with burlap. Everyone was curious about what lay beneath. But since Li Er said nothing, few dared ask. Yu Qigong quietly lifted a corner of the burlap and asked in wonder, Your Majesty, what is this object doing here in the hall? Li Er waved his hand. Uncover it, and you will see. Yu Qigong fully removed the burlap, revealing the plow. The officials immediately showed astonishment. What is this? Complex workmanship, unusual shape, but the steel is real. Could this be a new weapon from the Ministry of Works? A puzzled civil official muttered. His comment drew instant ridicule from the generals. A weapon? Open your damn eyes, has anyone ever seen a weapon shaped like this? Ha, even if it were a weapon, who could carry this into battle? Come now, you civil officials, demonstrate how this weapon is used. Looks more like a farming tool. Lier nodded. Correct. This is a farming tool called a plow. Yesterday afternoon, I personally took it to the Bureau of Agriculture. 1 man and 1 ox plowed over 20 mu in half a day. If used from dawn till dusk, cultivating 100 mu a day is not far-fetched. Gasps filled the court. 100 mu in 1 day? My God, this is no tool, this is a divine implement. Minister of Works Duan Luan exclaimed, Your Majesty, if it truly can cultivate 100 mu per day, it will save our people time and labor and greatly increase crop survival rates. We should have the ministry produce more plows and distribute them throughout Guangzhou. Lier's icy gaze fixed on Duan Luan, making him shiver and lower his head. Lier said with biting sarcasm, Indeed. This plow, known as the sled plow, dates back to the Han Dynasty. It is recorded in your ministry's agricultural tools manual. Duan Luan, as Minister of Works, are you telling me you never knew of it? Duan Luan's brow twitched, his face turning red. This, Your Majesty, I did not know. Smack. Lier slammed the desk and roared, Such a divine farming tool, recorded since Tang's founding, yet every Minister of Works has remained ignorant. You let it gather dust and made our people till the land with hoes. What the hell has your ministry been doing? Do my generous salaries merely feed a bunch of worthless pigs like you? Duan Luan fell to his knees in fright. Your Majesty, I have been too busy with affairs to read the manuals. Reviewing manuals and promoting tools is the duty of the Agricultural Implements Division. Lier's eyes widened with authority. Is that division not under your ministry? I am guilty. The court fell silent. Some secretly rejoiced at his misfortune. Most sensed that trouble was brewing for the Ministry of Works. Your Majesty, I acknowledge my guilt. At this point, Duan Luan had nothing more to say and could only wait for his punishment. Inwardly, he was already cursing the families of those good-for-nothing officials in charge of the technical manuals. Lier spoke in a deep voice, Duan Luan, Minister of Works, has neglected his duty and is guilty of dereliction. He is hereby stripped of his title and demoted to Agricultural Service Officer. Duan Luan's expression changed dramatically. His face, lowered to the ground, was filled with reluctance and thick resentment. The Minister of Works oversaw an entire ministry, a position of genuine power. And now, because of a mere plow, a senior official of the 3rd rank had been demoted to a minor 5th rank post. Moreover, Agricultural Service Officer was a physically demanding position that required frequent visits among the common people. To say Duan Luan bore no resentment would be a lie. I thank your Majesty for your mercy. Lier said coldly, Where is Grand Chamberlain Li Daliang? I am here. A man in his 40s stepped out from the military officials' ranks. Li Daliang was from the Longxili clan, both civilly and martially accomplished, a renowned general and a competent statesman. Lier said, You shall assume the post of Assistant Minister of Works. Li Daliang was overjoyed and immediately saluted, Thank you, Your Majesty. Lier continued, 2 days ago, I ordered the Agricultural Implements Division to work day and night to produce plows. Once the first batch is ready, the Ministry of Works shall be responsible for distributing them to all counties in the Guangzhou region. The local agricultural bureaus shall work around the clock to ensure widespread implementation. Yes, Your Majesty. Li Daliang accepted the decree with energy and enthusiasm. True control of state power lay with the 3 departments and 6 ministries, followed by provincial governors. The Ministry of Works was a true fat post. Taking over it left Li Daliang flushed with pride. After a moment's thought, Lier added, This plow was an improved farming tool designed by Prince Wei's tutor, Master Qing. I have tested it myself, its effectiveness is astonishing. It is a great service to the people and must be rewarded. The officials began murmuring among themselves. This Master Qing again? Truly worthy of being Prince Wei's teacher, to have invented such a divine tool for farming. Your Majesty, Master Qing has improved the efficiency of farming for the people. He deserves a reward. I second that. On the other side, Duan Luan, surrounded by civil officials, grew even darker in expression, his resentment now turned toward Master Qing. If it had not been for that damned plow, would he have ended up like this? Li Daliang's eyes lit up, and he cupped his hands. Your Majesty, the plow benefits the nation and the people, greatly improving agricultural methods. This is a merit worthy of eternal praise, it must be rewarded. Li Er laughed and nodded. Grand Chamberlain, you speak well. I think the same. However, Master Qing is far more capable than just inventing a plow. Oh? Li Daliang smiled. Your Majesty, what other inventions has Master Qing contributed to the nation? Li Er smiled and picked up a sheet of xian paper from the table. As everyone knows, among the 4 treasures of the study, brush, ink, paper, and inkstone, paper is essential. Yet a few sheets of quality xian paper cost a gold tael. It is expensive and produced in limited quantities, far from sufficient for general use. Only the wealthy and noble can afford xian paper. Ordinary folk may never see it in their entire lives. Yet xian paper is not only for writing and record keeping, it is also critical for printing books and can be preserved long term. Unfortunately, due to its cost, mass production has been impossible. As a result, book printing and the dissemination of educational materials have always been a key but difficult goal of all dynasties, including ours. Master Qing has not only taught Prince Wei the papermaking process, but also introduced the concept of movable type printing. As for papermaking, there is no need to say more, its benefit to the nation and society is immeasurable. It is a feat that will be remembered for eternity. As for movable type printing, it is revolutionary. In the past, each printing block was carved as a whole and destroyed after use. But Master Qing's concept involves carving individual character stamps that can be rearranged as needed to print texts. Surely all of you understand the brilliance of this idea? All the officials were visibly shocked. Among the civil officials on the right, Zhang Sun Wuji's eyes were wide as saucers, and he stammered, Your Majesty, has Master Qing truly improved the papermaking method? How much can be produced in a day? Xiao Yu and Zhang Sun Wuji jointly oversaw the secretariat, which was responsible for book printing, hence Zhang Sun Wuji's intense reaction. The impact of this news was monumental. Li Er shook his head. I do not know. The detailed instructions are recorded here. Li Daliang, I now entrust this to the Ministry of Works. Establish a papermaking workshop and begin trials immediately. Report the results as soon as they are available. I obey. Li Daliang hurriedly took the document, skimmed through it, and then tucked it carefully into his robe. After securing the papermaking notes, Li Daliang continued, Your Majesty, the techniques of papermaking and movable type printing are monumental achievements that benefit the entire world. With such talents, why not invite Master Qing to serve in court? Li Er shook his head. It is not that I lack the will to recruit talent. Master Qing is a man of peace, who dislikes the scheming and infighting of court. Moreover, he is visually impaired. A blind man should live in seclusion, not be dragged into the burdens of state. Li Daliang was astonished. Master Qing is blind? Yes. Li Er nodded. Li Daliang sighed deeply. What a pity. A man of such talent afflicted with blindness, it is as if heaven is jealous of genius. Zhang Sun Wuji suddenly suggested, Your Majesty, why not summon the Imperial Medical Bureau to treat Master Qing's condition? Li Er was moved and smacked his forehead with regret. In my busyness, I truly forgot. Right Vice-Chancellor, you have reminded me. I shall draft an edict shortly and dispatch an imperial physician to treat him. However, before that, there is another important matter I must address. The officials pricked up their ears. Li Er's face flushed with excitement, his expression impassioned. Master Qing not only discovered the plow, but also improved papermaking and introduced movable type printing. These merits alone are worthy of the annals of history. But there is more. He has made another tremendous contribution that will elevate our Tang military industry. Have none of you noticed the steel used in this plow? At his words, the officials once again examined the plow. This steel has a luster, it is obviously refined steel. One official even flicked it with his finger. The plow rang out in a crisp echo throughout the hall. Good steel, this is definitely refined steel. The tone is clear, without impurities, no worse than the material of my personal sword. Your Majesty, could this next great contribution of Master Qing relate to refined steel? Zhang Sun Wuji asked nervously. His family was in the iron business, and steel was their main source of income. Naturally, he was sensitive to the topic. Haha. Lia left. Indeed, right Vice-Chancellor, you are correct. A few days ago, I visited Master Qing's estate. He shared with me a method for producing refined steel. The Ministry of Works, with thousands of smiths, can barely produce a few thousand jin of refined steel annually, just enough for military needs. But Master Qing's method can produce over 100 jin a day with only 3 people. Our great Tang will never lack refined steel again. A powerful military industry is within reach. This declaration caused a great uproar in court. Zhang Sun Wuji's expression shifted repeatedly, excitement mixed